Okay.
Good evening and afternoon, everyone. The Sacramento City Council will please come to order. Would the clerk call the roll, please, to establish a quorum?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Kaplan. Here. Councilmember Tao. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Talamantes. Councilmember Valenzuela. Here. Vice Mayor Maple. Here. Councilmember Guerra.
Here.
Councilmember Jennings. Here. Councilmember Vang. Here. And Mayor Steinberg.
I am here. Vice Mayor, would you please lead us in the land acknowledgement and the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. Please rise if you are able. Please rise for the opening acknowledgments in honor of Sacramento's indigenous people and tribal lands. To the original people of this land, the Nisenan people, the Southern Maidu, Valley and Plains Miwok, Puerto and Wintun peoples, and the people of the Wilton Rancheria, Sacramento's only federally recognized tribe. May we acknowledge and honor the Native people who came before us and still walk beside us today on these ancestral lands by choosing to gather today in the active practice of acknowledgement and appreciation for Sacramento's indigenous people's history, contributions, and lives. Remain standing, salute, and pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, again, a very good afternoon to everyone, my colleagues, the city staff, city team, and of course all the members of the public that are here and watching either on a live stream or on television. Begin with a small point of privilege here, and that is to wish our colleague, District 1 Council Member Lisa Kaplan, a very, very happy birthday. And I would sing happy birthday to you, but I want to keep my day job. We just want to wish you a very, very happy birthday. Officially tomorrow. Yeah, and I know all my colleagues join you, and you have a great, great celebration. Getting older is a good thing, I will say.
The 20th anniversary of my 29th birthday.
Of your 29th birthday. That's excellent. Anyways, a great day, and thank you for serving. Okay, here we go. We begin with a special presentation recognizing Clean Air Day, presented by Councilmember Guerra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's great to be here to recognize California Clean Air Day. To do that, I'd like to the podium call up our clean air advocates. One and only our former council member and former executive director of the Sacramento Tree Foundation, Council Member Ray Trethway. Come on up, give him a big round of applause. Also, our executive director from the Sacramento Bike Association, Deborah Banks. Come on up, Deborah. And my neighbor Jeremiah, who's right over there too. Also, Mark. Let's bring up Mark Lutzenheiser, I think it is. I always mess it up. But from the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District. And also, let's bring up our American Lung Association here, representatives. So let's give them all a big round of applause here. So, Mayor and Council, California Clean Air Day actually dates back to 1971 from the Coalition for Clean Air. Very proud organization here in California that started the Share a Ride Day and also something we know called Smog Check. And I just got my car smogged and it passed. It's always one of those things where you cross your fingers, you know. But one of the important things that they recognized was how bad air in two forms particularly affect our lung development, affect our seniors, affect our young kids, and those with asthma. And unfortunately, California has 7 of the 10 worst cities of air pollution, and Sacramento being number 7, Sacramento and Roseville, the Sacramento-Roseville area. So everyone in our metropolitan region is affected by 2 very particular things. One is ozone, and the other particular thing is particulate matter, the PM 2.5. And unfortunately, a lot of that comes from driving our cars, the residues, the wood burning of fires. And so what we try to do at Clean Air Day is pull our efforts to do something to improve the air every day and remind everyone how important it is that if we can't have clean air, then we can't have strong lungs, we can't have strong children, we can't provide a future for them and a prosperous life. The City of Sacramento, I want to thank my colleagues, including the mayor, who through the Budget and Audit Committee, we allocated $500,000 to create the largest air monitoring program linked with the city and the county and our region and our entire state. It's one of the most best monitoring programs. Let's give our council and the mayor a big round of applause for such commitment to clean air. And because of that, we couldn't have done it without all of our city staff who have been working on clean air. So I do want to thank our public works staff, our clean air staff who've been out there. Megan Carter, she just helped put together an amazing crosswalk to cross Stockton Boulevard. You can't find another mode of transportation if you can't walk. So let's give our public transportation engineers a big round of applause as well. And let me ask to say a few words about clean air, because you can't have clean air without good trees in the city of trees. Let's bring up a council member, former city council member, Ray Trethewey. Come on, Ray.
Thank you, council members. Thank you, Eric, and mayor and fellow council members, past as well as present. You've got a strong commitment to clean air, as Eric just shared, year after year, decade after decade, making us a healthier city, day by day, policy by policy. We are the city of trees. Trees are sometimes called the lungs of the earth, producing the oxygen we breathe. Clean air and clean lungs are one's health, and one's health go hand in hand, as Eric just shared with us. That is why I want to share tonight how important our city street trees are. Street trees are the signature trees of the city. They're the most visible and seen trees in the city. They're oftentimes the largest and most hardest working trees in the city. Hardest working as they clean and cool the worst air pollution of the city. And you know where that is? It's that small envelope of air right next to our roadways, out our sidewalks. That air is a culmination of tailpipe exhaust, brake lining debris, and particulate dust that threatens the lungs of those most frequently who use our sidewalks and bikeways, the vulnerable lungs of our youth and our elderly. You don't see many car drivers out there on the sidewalks. Up to 1994, the city offered free street trees to all residents. The city published a preferred street tree list, and all residents could choose a street tree of their choice and have it delivered for free. That's how we become the city of trees. Today, street trees planted and cared for by the city tree services are limited to about half of the city neighborhoods. And those neighborhoods are mainly, as we all know, middle class and wealthy. In the coming months, you will be adopting a new urban forest plan. At this time, I would urge you to adopt a plan that offers, once again, free city street trees to all neighborhoods. This policy direction will contribute greatly to the city's equity, environmental, health, and climate goals. Let's be the city of trees for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And yes, it's an equity issue about where our trees are and also where you can ride a bike safely or walk safely. And to talk about that is our active transportation commissioner and executive director of the Sacramento Area Bicycle Advocates, Deborah Banks.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much for doing this at the beginning of the meeting. Just saying. I'm Deb Banks, Executive Director of SABA, Sacramento Area Bicycle Advocates, and we believe that bikes can change the world. I know I've said that before, but we really do believe it. They're fun, they're a pleasurable way to get around the city, and they can aid in anyone's physical health, and they just frankly bring joy. Right, Howard? You know. I know you know. And one of the things that makes bicycles so awesome is the fact that they don't add to pollution that we experience from vehicles. We love Clean Air Day. Frankly, we believe that every day should be Clean Air Day, and we put these values into practice by getting more people to get on their bikes and choose their bike for daily trips around town. It's as simple as that. The more people that are getting onto e-bikes, like Councilman Guerra, then we know that more people are going to have a great experience on our roads, and we're going to lower our VMT goals, and we're going to get to better air quality. So, viva la bicicleta, and long live Clean Air Day. Thanks.
Thanks, Deborah. And finally, let's bring up who works on this every day, looking at our entire air quality for all of our region. One of our clean air champions here from the Sacramento Metropolitan Air District, the Director of Monitoring, Planning, and Rule Division, Mark Lutzenheiser. Hello, Mark.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, council members. Really appreciate being here today. Just a few quick words. I want to touch back upon what Eric mentioned at the very beginning. Do want to thank very much this council for the grant funding for the additional monitoring that we were able to do here in Sacramento, and also to your staff here at the City of Sacramento, because it has been a very significant partnership over the last couple of years. To that extent, over 200 what we call portable sensors measuring PM 2.5 here in the community, specifically in those areas most impacted. So it was actually targeted toward those areas that are historically underserved and left behind. And that is where those were targeted, along with street level monitoring as part of that project, where it was a special project. We partnered with Sonoma Technologies to bring out vans going around on these same streets in the most disadvantaged areas in order to bring information about what air quality is looking like at that street level. As Ray mentioned, where that's going on and the sidewalks and those impacts going forward. And that partners really well with a lot of the efforts that we at the Sacramento Air District have been doing, and also some of our other partner agencies, because it has allowed us to get additional federal grants for doing toxics monitoring. It's allowed partner groups such as Valley Vision, United Latinos to get both state and federal grants, bringing just a very dense opportunity and network here to Sacramento. And so on that note, though, as we're wrapping up that particular project, one of the things we're also doing like that is getting this information out there to the public. So over here at the main desk, and also just bringing to your attention, though, is to highlight that we're, as in honor of Clean Air Day, although it'd be for the weekend, is we're partnering both with the city and with the Meadowview Farmers Market and a lot of other partner organizations out there this Sunday
We'll be there.
with Saba out there as well, doing some bike tune-ups as well for people. But he's going ahead and now sharing this information, sharing the opportunities, getting information on biking, air quality, and these great programs going on. So again, thank you very much, and encourage all of you to join us on Sunday.
So Clean Air Day coming up this Wednesday. This weekend gives you an opportunity to try out free bike repairs, to look at free riding the light rail. On Clean Air Day, you can ride RT for free. Or encouraging people to test out these e-scooters at all of the different Clean Air Day events that are happening this Saturday, so that on Clean Air Day you can take an opportunity to try to reduce our emissions so that everyone can have clean air. And lastly, I'd like, as you know, I get the pleasure of being our California Air Resources Board member representative for the region, but it can't happen without all of the local efforts here. And I want to recognize how much of our board here sits on regional transit. They sit on the Air District, and they are also advocating on policies at the local every day to make sure this happens. So if I could have my Air District fellow board members join me downstairs and recognize and ask everyone to join us on Wednesday. You can do your part by planting a tree, riding a bike, commuting, carpooling, not commuting by yourself, but by carpooling and telecommuting to reduce and improve our air. So with that, let's give a big round of applause to American Lung Association, Saba, Tree Foundation for the California Clean Air Day. And we'll do a quick photo.
It's excellent. Okay.
If anyone has phones, if they want pictures, I can take them.
Come on over. Come on, Ray. You know the way.
Thank you.
Come on.
And I got one more. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Oh, this one. All right. I'll send you one of these. That's what I'm thank you. One more. One more has one. That's right. Oh, you need one.
One more. Oh, I was gonna do that. Well, enough to do it here.
And by the way, Ray biked here today from Natomas.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Maple has a comment. While we're taking the pictures, I'll turn it over to Vice Mayor Maple. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And just really quickly, I want to thank my colleague, Councilmember Guerra, for bringing this up. This is important. As he mentioned, I serve on the Air District with my colleagues. But I also want to bring to everyone's attention a really fun opportunity to take this beyond just Clean Air Day. So starting Monday of next week, it will be a week without driving. And so I would like to formally challenge not only my colleagues here, but also the public at large to join me in a week without driving. The goal here is to use public transportation, biking, walking, everything you can, other than driving in your car to get where you need to go. And so I'll be doing that next week. I challenge you to do as much as you can. The goal is to try to replace as many car rides as possible with other options. So don't feel bad if you can't do every single one, but I challenge you, and I'd love to have you all be a part of that. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Very good. Well, I guess my only comment is 2026 ballot measure, clean air, safe streets, public transportation. Every time, going to remind that got to go to the people with a smart ballot measure that is about quality of life and climate. Thank you. Excellent. Okay. Next, we go on item 1. I'm going to pull the item. We are very happy and proud to make the announcement that's embodied by the city auditor in this item, but a few more details to work out, so we're just going to pull it for now, if that's okay. Thank you. All right, we get then to the last item, but the main item for the evening, and that is the Sacramento Children's Fund Strategic Investment Plan. As you recall, just an opening comment here, we did hear this matter 2 weeks ago, and at my suggestion, and also the suggestion of some of my colleagues, we did not take a vote 2 weeks ago because we wanted to hear all the council input. I know that staff has a specific recommendation. I would like them to present. I will then make a couple of comments, opening comments. We'll turn it over then for public testimony, and then we'll bring it back to the council where I will provide even some more detailed comments before turning it over to my colleagues. So that's the way that we intend to go tonight, and I'd like to turn it over to Jackie Beecham, who runs our YPSI department for the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening. Jackie Beecham, Director of Youth, Parks, and Community Enrichment Department. I'm here this evening following the September 10th meeting where Council heard the Sacramento Children's Fund Planning and Oversight Commission's proposal for the 5-year strategic investment plan. So we're back tonight to respond to some items from the September 10th meeting related to Measure L and the strategic investment plan. More detailed information can also be found under Attachment 6 that was published as a supplement to this item on the council agenda. So first, in response to some policy and process related questions regarding eligible programs and projects, Measure L requires that funding be used to provide youth services as defined by the measure. The charter provision excludes expenditures that only incidentally benefit youth. So funding can be spent on facility maintenance and projects provided the expenditures meet the definition of a youth service and that the facility is primarily and directly utilized by youth. The city auditor's baseline funding calculation report can also be referenced for examples of qualified expenditures. In addition to full and partial expenditures for YPSI and other city youth programs, qualifying capital project expenditures for construction and maintenance were also included or were identified as primary youth programs, pool repairs being examples of one of them. For questions related to grantee performance review, the strategic investment plan recommends multi-year grant cycles where funding will be dispersed annually and contingent upon grantee performance, contract compliance, and fund availability. The measure does require annual service performance reports and youth impact evaluation reports. to evaluate and assess the progress towards youth outcome metrics established by the Strategic Investment Plan. Performance reviews will also be including programmatic and financial reviews that will occur annually or more frequently. And then for questions related to the panel review, consistent with current city practices, the grant review panelists will have knowledge, skills, and expertise related to youth programming and the 5 fund goals that are outlined in Measure L. Diversity and inclusion principles will also be considered when selecting panelists. Our panelists will also be assessed for conflicts of interest, and staff will work with the city attorney's office to determine whether potential panelists have any prohibited conflicts of interest. Requested of YPC at the September 10th council meeting was also a priority list of unfunded park and facility projects. This list is not inclusive of YPC's $130+ million deferred maintenance burden as identified by citywide park, facility, and pool assessments. Staff have identified the top 31 projects prioritized based on youth impact, those with the greatest safety, code compliance, and operational impacts, and the feasibility of delivering these projects once funded. In addition to being identified on YPC's citywide assessments, many of these projects are also on the Park Planning Programming Guide as requested by residents, care holders, and users of our parks, facilities, and programs. The first 10 priority unfunded projects range from lighting parks and sports fields at Johnston and Tanzanite parks, repairing and converting the Robertson Park wading pool to an accessible splash pad, refurbishing sports courts and replacing all-weather turf at Granite Regional Park that is in poor condition, and site plans for the Robla Park Community Center. The next set of projects includes more park lighting for safe access, playground replacements, and installation of shade canopies over play areas, and the addition of fencing to improve playground safety. And the final set of projects includes, again, more playground and shade structure replacements, skate park renovations and repairs, and the renovation of the Mangan Park Community Clubhouse. Again, this list, totaling approximately $25 million, is not inclusive of YPC's overall $130 million deferred maintenance for parks, facilities, and pools. So as mentioned, in addition to safety impacts and the ability to deliver projects, the unfunded list was prioritized based on youth impact. Again, a more comprehensive overview of the youth impacts by project can be found in the supplement to the staff report, but I'll cover a few for you quickly here. Parks, community centers, and pools are visited by thousands of youth and families each year, and having access to quality parks and facilities is critical to youth safety. Community centers support over 15,000 visits from youth and teens in out-of-school time programs, preschool programs, and provide hot meals to thousands of youth in under-resourced communities every year. City facilities are also used by our CBO and nonprofit partners to deliver essential youth and family services. Our pools provide a safe space for youth citywide with over 80,000 youth visits in recreational swim each summer and employment opportunities for young people across 17 aquatics facilities. And our 238 parks, home to our workforce development programs like landscape and learning, are visited by countless youth and families participating in sports activities, using our playgrounds, skate parks, and more. Lighted athletic fields and sports courts for safe use after dark, repaired pools to remain open for safe swimming, renovation of park amenities like our playgrounds, skate parks, and restrooms, and safe and accessible community centers for youth and families to receive services. These are all investments that have a significant overall impact on Sacramento youth. Lastly, we were asked to provide more information on current community-based organization partnerships. Here we have an overview of YPC and CBO collaboration and support funded by Measure U and General Fund. YPC implements a community center and sports field permit fee waiver and fee reduction program to ensure access to facilities and sports fields for organizations that provide programs and services that benefit youth and families citywide. Examples of services provided by nonprofits and community partners includes health and wellness resources and programs, social service referrals, 0 to 5 child development and child care programs, and recreation, youth sports league and practices. Since fiscal year 23-24, YPSI has waived over $300,000 in community center and sports field permit fees. Additionally, YPSI partners with enrichment providers and community organizations offering youth and family program supplementation, including health and wellness activities, social emotional learning, coping skills, and social service referrals, such as healthcare, housing, and access to healthy food. In addition to contracting with providers for over $65,000 annually in services, YPSI staff partners with many organizations through in-kind event and program collaborations to best support our community. And lastly, our youth development team administers over $5 million in grants for community-based organizations to provide services that support mental wellness, workforce development, academic support, capacity building, 0 to 5 child development and care, and violence intervention. Some of these grants include Sacktown Youth Nights and the Organizational Resiliency Fund, programs that support CBOs in addressing the priorities of youth safety, violence prevention, and economic development in our underrepresented communities. There are several other city and CBO partnerships across city departments that are not captured here. This overview is exclusive to YPSI managed projects and demonstrates over $6 million in Measure U and general fund investment in these collaborative partnerships with our community-based organizations across the city. So in response to council discussions on September 10th, and to ensure that we as a city are addressing the fund goals identified in Measure L, including mental health and wellness, youth homelessness, youth substance abuse and violence prevention, and the healthy development of children 0 to 5, staff is recommending updates to these sections of the strategic investment plan. Staff are supportive of the Strategic Investments Plan recommendation around guaranteed basic income programs. After the administrative costs as outlined in the measure, and to ensure we are reaching the most vulnerable youth, staff recommends that at least 20% of each grant cycle be dedicated to support one or more grantees to provide guaranteed cash transfer programming for current or former foster youth ages 18 to 24. This recommendation would support approximately $7.5 million in guaranteed basic income programming and over $30 million in open grants over a 5-year period. And here's a breakout of what that would look like based on approximate amount calculations. Next, staff recommends the remaining grant cycle funding after the 20% to guaranteed basic income programming be awarded to a mix of proposals providing program strategies that address the 5 fund goals. Grant proposals must be addressed through the city's competitive RFP and proposal selection process per the requirements of the measure. And a competitive grant award process is based on a competitive application process where all applications are scored on a published set of evaluation criteria. Staff recommends that the city rely on the established citywide grant distribution policy that's currently used for the award of grant funding. For allocation by grantee type, staff are recommending that rather than contemplate who will receive funding to deliver services, we shift our focus back to the purpose of the Children's Fund. That is ultimately to support positive youth development and youth violence prevention, prioritizing children and youth most impacted by poverty, trauma, and violence. With that, staff recommends that remaining funding be allocated through the open, transparent, and competitive process as previously outlined to organizations that can best serve the city's youth consistent with the fund goals that are outlined in the measure. Again, supporting mental health, preventing homelessness among youth, reducing substance abuse and violence, and supporting healthy development for children ages 0 to 5. And finally, after feedback from council on September 10th, staff are proposing the following updates regarding tools to identify priority populations. Staff recommends identifying youth as demonstrated by but not limited to the following tools: the Child Opportunity Index, the SEED tool, communities receiving a welfare tax exemption for affordable housing, and any other measure of low income. This update recommendation does not limit populations to those identified specifically in the tool, but provides examples of data to identify the lowest levels of opportunity for youth. In closing, I would like to thank the Sacramento Children's Fund Planning and Oversight Commission, many of them are here this evening, for their hard work and collaboration, and the Sacramento Youth Commission for the development of the Strategic Investment Plan. We do recognize that this work cannot be done alone, and we are committed to continuing to work collaboratively with our commissions, city council, and the community to move this plan forward. I'm happy to take any questions and also have our Sacramento Children's Fund staff available as well.
I think it would be appropriate now to take questions for Ms. Beecham on the specifics of the staff's proposal. Let me just, before we do, say a couple of things. One, I appreciate the thoughtfulness of the proposal, and I also appreciate the excellent work that your department does and all of its people dedicated to community, dedicated to young people. So many important and good programs that are underfunded. Just like a lot of programs out in the community that are run by our community-based organizations. And so you put forward, again, a thoughtful proposal. What I would intend to do after we hear the public testimony is put forward some of my own ideas after after hearing the testimony several weeks ago, hearing the comments of all of my colleagues 2 weeks ago, and maybe it'll frame up a good, healthy discussion among the City Council about what initial direction that we want to go here. I'm not going to reveal the details, but I want to put something forward that I think is consistent, maybe more consistent with the Commission's approach, but with some modifications. And so then we will have, we'll be framed to have, I think, a very good discussion. Councilmember Valenzuela?
Yeah, just a quick question, Jackie. Were you able to consult either of the commissions, the Youth Commission or the Fund Commission, on the staff proposal?
I was not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that's the way we intend to proceed here. And I'm sorry, Eric, go ahead, I'm sorry. Yep.
Yeah, one question here, and it was
Yeah.
a question about eligibility. All of those lists or items that you mentioned in the staff report, would all those be qualified expenses or qualified expenditures under Measure L? And maybe that's a question for both you or the city attorney.
Sure, and I think ultimately it would be determined by the city auditor's office as we're identifying eligible criteria, but I can say that based on the baseline calculations, I gave examples of projects that were included. If we can demonstrate for any project or any program, demonstrate that it has a primary youth benefit, then it would qualify. So we did have capital projects that were factored into the Measure L baseline calculation, such as pool repairs. They would be included.
So capital projects would not be excluded as long as they meet the primary youth focus.
Services,
Okay.
correct.
But and tonight we're not being asked, I think, under any proposal to actually make expenditures for any specific project or program. Tonight is a framework. And so, but the question came up 2 weeks ago, and it's absolutely the right question, and I guess the answer is anything's possible, but it's a case-by-case basis. If it meets the definition under Measure L, that has to be primarily for youth, correct?
And I was going to say, can I add? And my understanding is that it has all funds, whether it's for park, it has to go through a competitive process.
Right.
That is correct.
That's correct.
Yep.
Yep, okay. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, let's hear from the public. So I want to say in public testimony, everybody's entitled to 2 minutes, and as your mayor, I'm not going to cut anybody off before 2 minutes. However, those of you who spoke last time, if you want to take less than 2 minutes, like 1 minute, it might be even better, because then we get to the discussion and the debate from our colleagues quicker when everyone's still fresh. And I would encourage you to be as succinct as possible, and we'll get the point, okay? We really will. Thank you.
Mayor, I have 40 speakers on this agenda item. I'll read off a few names. Daryl Roberts, Betty Williams, Heidi Kaiser, Mary Tapple, Ardell Harrison, and please feel free to line up in the aisle.
Roberts.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Daryl Roberts, co-founder of Robert Sanders Development Center, Young People in the Blue. And Ms. Turner, would you mind standing up? Please, thank you very much. There are part of the Grant Pacers after-school program for us, as well as, what's the city initiative called? 1,000 strong.
Oh, yeah.
So we believe that the city has the ability to invest in our students. I'm here as a veteran who in 2008 stood before you, Councilman Jennings, and at that point, Mayor, you were Assembly member, and I think Ray Trethway was on the council, and we talked about a gang task force that failed because one of the council members felt like that wasn't something they wanted to do. And 2012, Measure U was voted on by the voters, and we were promised funds that would go to youth programs. Very few of those did, although some did over the years. When we got to 2018, Measure G was killed. 2022, Measure L was victorious, 67 to 43, 63 to 47, and 37. And you know, the thing that disappoints me is that tonight I'm coming to you, and once again, rather than $8 million split into 6 areas that we focused on, we're now being told that that $8 million will probably be split out into other areas. The disappointment for me is that we once again are underinvesting with our youth. Those young people weren't born when I came here in 2008, but many of you were, and the problems we have in the city, including the problems this past weekend, continue because of lack of investment in our young people.
Thank you for your comment. Betty Williams.
Good evening. My name is Betty Williams. I'm president of the National African American Civil Rights Organization, and I stand in solidarity with the Youth Commission and their recommendations. This past weekend was a bloody weekend. The fact that we have youth that died as young as 12 years old is absolutely a tragedy. And so what we voted on in 2022 on Measure L, we said focus on the youth. So the fact that they are recommending that 20% goes to the foster care and then 65% goes to the CBOs, the people who have been doing the work, to focus on mental health, the focus on the violence, the focus on families 0 to 5 years old with children, to focus on the drug and the abuse of drugs. And so to sit here and look at a recommendation saying we should take care of parks and bathrooms when we had 5 deaths in the last weekend, it's insulting to me. It's insulting to our community. The fact that you won't listen to the recommendations of the youth that's bringing it before you, and I should applaud the youth that made it here tonight just to witness what you're about to do. You need to understand that when we vote for something like a Measure L, when we vote for something, that we are speaking to you of what we want. So when we have a child, and as I explained, and thank you, Councilmember Maivang and Councilmember Maple and the mayor for coming to the call of action to our community yesterday. Thank you for listening to us, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure, Councilmember Kaplan, that you hear us, that you're not looking at a screen.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete.
And I appreciate.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Heidi Kaiser. Thank you, Betty.
No.
Heidi Kaiser is the next speaker.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Betty.
Mayor, for not cutting me off.
Thank you. Well, we're just trying to keep everyone on time if we can. Thank you. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Heidi Kaiser speaking on behalf of Child Action. Please approve the strategic investment plan recommended by the Commission. Through this city investment plan, you have the opportunity to invest in the future of our 0 to 5 population through childcare. Our children and families need this investment. In the city of Sacramento, 10% of families are living below the federal poverty line, and we know that this is not really showing the full extent of poverty in the city. Many are living paycheck to paycheck. Children living in poverty at risk of falling behind before they can even walk. Investing in childcare as a part of the strategic investment plan is an investment in prevention. ECE programs play an important role in providing services and supports to prevent child abuse and neglect, promote healthy development and resilience, and counterbalance the effects of adversity. the City of Sacramento has an opportunity to invest in our littlest learners. Please approve the investment plan. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker is Mary Tapple. Mary Tapple, then Ardell Harrison, then Nia Moore Weathers.
Hello, members of the council and mayor. Thank you very much for our Northern Sacramento Bike Trail cleanup, and I want to emphasize that although you cannot get an accounting for the number of people's lives that we saved, including kids, but we were desperately in the community trying to get the bike trail cleaned up because we were very nearly getting kids mowed down by vehicles that should not have been driving on the bike trail. My husband was almost hit, and if that vehicle had come just an hour or two later, there were Robla community school students, Robla elementary school students walking down that bike trail 3 across. When I was desperately pruning for more visibility there, a few days after a little while after my husband was almost hit and killed by a head-on person coming on in a big vehicle on the bike trail, I noticed that the kids were walking on the trail, and there's no way if that same vehicle would come at the same speed that a little kid would not have been killed. So we can't measure the lives that have been saved by the bike trail cleanup and all the safety that the city and the citizens and community groups did together, but this work needs to continue. We have some irresponsible drivers coming back right on the trail. We have people setting up tents again where they can hide aggressive dogs that have also gone after school kids just trying to get to school on the bike trail. And we have a lot of underfunded city parks. And these kids need to use those parks. We need to have the city staff still working with our community and with the law enforcement to keep that bike trail safe for everybody's sake. And there is in the north area along this bike trail many underserved communities loaded with kids, mainly kids of color, mainly low income. Everybody knows it. We need that bike trail still kept up. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Ardell.
Good afternoon, Mayor Steinberg, City Council. I come to you today with a heavy heart. We met yesterday at Dr. Rose's office, and thank you, my Dane, for showing up, Kathy Maples, Mayor, and you could feel the tension and the presence of the sorrow that the parents would be feeling. And, you know, these measures need to be looked at, and they need to be approved, but the thing that I always ask someone when I'm making a hard decision, you know, what if I put myself in your position? Can you imagine any of you all getting that phone call or somebody knocking on your door and telling you that your child has been killed? Okay? No parent should have to bury their child. And this is when it comes down to underfunding. And when we don't have the funding, the kids are out there, the youth are out there, and they don't have a place to go. So they get into trouble, and the trouble is becoming more and more extensive. So as we go down for the Children's Fund and Measure L, really give it some consideration and put yourself in a parent's position that your child got shot. And this right here takes it home more than anything else. And I just ask you guys, oh, I forgot, I'm Ardell Harrison, the president of the NAACP, but that's not important. This is what's important. And please, 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 let's approve these measures. Thank you.
Moore Weathers, then Eve Banas.
Hello, council members and mayor. My name is Nia Moore Weathers, and I'm a citizen of District 4. I'm a proud member of the Sacramento Kids First Coalition and the Sacramento Racial Equity Alliance. All gratitude to the commission members and all of our grassroots supporters who are in the house this evening. I've had the pleasure of organizing, implementing, and advocating around youth policy here in the city for the past 7 years. Through those ups and downs, I have learned that nothing gets done without compromise, and compromise demands understanding and the fortitude to build towards a common goal. Our common goal at the Sacramento Kids First Coalition has always been our youth stability and success, but more than anything, their physical and mental well-being. We are grateful to share in this goal. However, we can all agree that the events of this past weekend makes our shared goal that much more clear and that much more urgent. Though I would like to remind everyone that a vote yes tonight isn't just a vote yes for youth safety and youth life. A vote yes tonight is a vote yes for creating and standing on much needed and overlooked values. The Sacramento Children's Fund is the first of its kind, not because it proposes permanent funding for youth services, but because it is informed by the SEED tool, which allows us to easily and plainly identify which youth need the most help, those youth being Indigenous, LGBTQ, Black and Brown, Southeast Asian, and systems impacted, as it bears repeating. Funding our youth with an equity lens isn't a suggestion we bring forward to be hopeful or to be cute. It will be a key factor in determining qualitative change for our youth. Our success hinges on it. Lastly, a vote yes tonight is a vote for a promise fulfilled, a reminder. Compromise rests, yes, on understanding and on the want for a common goal, but it also rests on sacrifice. Our youth have sacrificed enough and for long enough. They've been waiting since 2018 for this money. Vote yes tonight and keep your promise. Adopt the Sacramento Children's Fund as is.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Eve Banis. Our next speaker is Eve Banis, Tyler Zeno, Mercedes Parker, Rashid Sadiq, Raquel Rodriguez.
Hello, good evening. My name is Eve Banis, and I'm the Advocacy and Training Lead at the Sacramento LGBT Community Center and a member of the SAC Kids First Coalition. The center works to create a region where all LGBTQ+ people thrive. We support health and wellness, advocate for equity and justice, and work to uplift our diverse and culturally rich LGBTQ+ community. I'll start by saying that the center is grateful to the City of Sacramento for their partnership on Sac-Town Youth Nights and our Transitional Living Program, which are vital to the most vulnerable in the LGBTQ+ community. As a community-based organization, the center is able to serve hundreds of youth each year through our Youth Drop-In Center Q-Spot and our 2 housing programs where we provide shelter for unhoused transitional-aged youth. The center provides mental health support, life skills workshops, education, resources, health services, community building activities, paid internships, and housing for LGBTQ+ youth and allies. Research shows that cultivating meaningful community relationships is critical to long-term emotional resilience for marginalized youth. And at the center, we see firsthand the positive impact that a supportive and affirming community space can have on LGBTQ+ youth. We also see the harms that occur when youth can't access affirming support and services, including housing and mental health services. The Planning and Oversight Commission's Strategic Investment Plan offers a way forward that can reduce youth homelessness, prevent the development of unhealthy coping strategies, and support leadership and employment opportunities for our youth. The plan's focus on equity, community involvement, and transparency are critical to ensuring that our youth have their voice in policies that impact them. The Commission's plan will positively impact LGBTQ+ youth in Sacramento through targeted, data-informed strategies. Together, we can create a community that uplifts and strengthens our youth and gives them the tools they need to live healthy and vibrant lives. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Tyler, then Mercedes.
Hello, my name is Tyler Zeno, and I'm a former foster youth living in a THP program. I really believe that we need to keep this funding, or at least start this funding, because not only as myself as a student, it's really tough here to really make $250 a month for rent, even though it might not seem like a lot for you guys, but it's a lot for me when you only have one on-call job and no steady income. It's really a big deal. Not only that, vegetarian groceries is no joke. So if you know how it is to just get groceries in general, it's pretty stressful, like really stressful. And not gonna lie, even when you had to like get stuff for not only just for myself, but for kids, or if you have anything that rely on you for support, it sucks. So this grant, I feel like, will help people who are on the edge, people who might lose their homes, jobs, kids, or even their emotional support animals like myself. And I know for a fact that this could really help all of us out for those that are struggling financially, mentally, probably physically if anyone's on substance use that probably need to pay for the programs. Please say yes for this petition, not just for me, but other kids like me or have been like me. And maybe even for your own family members that might be going through this now or probably in the future. Thank you, Avi.
Then Rashid.
Good evening. My name is Mercedes Parker. I'm here on behalf of California Youth Connection. I have the honor and privilege of representing young people all across the state of California who have experienced foster care that are between the ages of 14 and 24 years old. Since I've worked at CYC, also forgot to mention, I live in District 4. I grew up in Sacramento. I'm also a former foster youth. But since I've been at CYC, I've talked to hundreds, if not thousands of youth, not only in Sacramento, but across the state and across the country. And one thing that we are hearing consistently is the challenges that youth are facing, the choices that they are being forced to make because they do not have adequate resources or support. Our child welfare system is failing our youth, and we are looking at the consequences every day when we look at what's happening to our city and the chronic homelessness that is impacting our state. We have an opportunity to disrupt that cycle and disrupt that pipeline that is funneling youth from their childhoods into a situation where they're constantly fighting generational poverty, where they are fighting against generational involvement with the child welfare system, where they're having to make choices that I don't think anybody sitting on the dais here has had to make for themselves when it comes to their survival. So I'm here to urge you all to support the strategic plan as presented. And I just want to say, as a resident of Sacramento, being involved in the Sacramento Kids First Coalition and fighting for Sacramento Children's Fund as somebody that has always worked in youth programming, this has been the one thing that has really made me proud to live in Sacramento. And so I really hope that we can execute Measure L the way that it was intended, as everybody behind me is going to tell you. Thank you for your time.
Rashid, then Rochelle.
Rashid Sadiq would lift up love, but I would like to at least do a moment of silence for all of the lives that was lost this weekend. And if we could just give up 30 seconds of my time. Thank you. And I would like to give my speaking time to Danny Williams, who actually worked close with the young 12-year-old. You missed him when you came to the meeting, but I'd rather give him an opportunity to speak.
Well, why don't you take your full 2 minutes, sir? Go ahead. Thank you, Rashid. Go ahead. Take 2 minutes, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Steinberg. To the distinguished city council, so my name is Danny Williams, Champs for Life. I resigned as a principal 2 years ago from Sava Charter School in Oak Grove because I wanted to make a difference that I've been doing for over 25 years, working in the families in Phoenix Park. And so when I resigned from my principal job, I said, you know what? I've got to do what other people aren't doing, cut through the red tape. So when I'm walking the streets of Coral Gables Saturday night, making sure people are okay, making sure they're fed, making sure they're taken care of, I get the news about this young man who was shot and killed, 12 years old. We fed the entire community all summer long with community partnerships. Since COVID, in fact, I'm texting friends, I'm texting Chinu, I'm texting Jackie Rose, and hey, those are my resources for Coral Gables, Meadow Glen, that side of Meadowview that it's not being ignored, it's just severely underserved and under-resourced. I tried to bring in people for the first mass shooting in July, and then things just fell through the cracks, and I said, okay. And there's that last shooting, I'm at the vigil, I'm texting people saying, hey, what's going on? We can do better in Sacramento. I grew up in Meadowview all of my life. I went to college and came back here to make sure as a teacher and a principal for over about 25 years, in combined service to make sure that the community is getting my best. We can do better. We need to do better with resources, a lot better listening to people who are feet, boots on the ground. You know, I know obviously Councilmember Vang very well. I know Mr. Jennings, I think, well enough, you know, over the years. You know, I'm not going anywhere, but we have to do a better job because Champs is reaching, but we're severely under-resourced. I have 6 children, and my son's 11 years old. My oldest is 29. I have kids who took the bar exam, but a lot of people in our communities aren't getting those opportunities, and they're not getting those chances. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Rachel Rodriguez, then Jeremy Flanagan. Rachel, and then Jeremy Flanagan.
Man, I gotta take glasses on to see and glasses off to see. Hi, I'm Rachel Rodriguez. I'm here representing the Justice Reform Coalition. I work as a civil rights advocate out in the community. It's short and sweet. You know, we are in support of this. And basically all the problems that we're hearing and the things that are going on in the bloodbath we've seen this last week, what we have to say about it is these problems are results of decades, not years, decades of underinvestment in our youth and underserved communities. I mean, they're not going away anytime soon. Our youth of underserved communities and color already lack the access to positive resources and like education, minimum education and career opportunities. And what does this do for us as a community? It hurts our whole community in the long run because the youth are exposed to what we just seen this last weekend. Drug addiction, homelessness, trauma, even going to bed on empty stomachs, you know? And I mean, the basic necessities that we should be providing as a community, and we're not. So we are in support of this. We are hoping that this gets funded so that the people, you know, my cohorts, who we are out here, the community, the youth, they can continue doing what we're already doing with boots to the ground on little or no money. Now you can show your support to us so that we can continue to do the work and hopefully reach more children and we don't have a repeat of what we just seen this last weekend.
Jeremy Flanagan, then Hazel Watson.
My name's Jeffrey Flanagan. I'm just here today to talk about the Measure L. I live in District 2, and you know, we have parks that need maintenance, mainly Mama Mark's Park, obviously Johnson Park, and we also have a lot of deferred maintenance, and I feel like some of this money should go towards the deferred maintenance. I feel like it's important to support our CBOs and give them an opportunity to serve our youth, but I also feel like our parks, you know, they serve thousands of children. I was in, you know, White Rock in Rancho Cordova, and they had recently renovated a park that looks like most of our parks in District 2. They had this huge, you know, barrel being filled with water and all these kids underneath it, anticipating it to turn over and splash on the kids, and they were having a really good time. And you've seen, you know, green grass, you know, kids playing on a modern sports field. So I think I would like to see that happen in District 2. And I would also like to point out that the state of California is currently doing a pilot programming for the UBI, and I think it's important that we check that out before we, you know, allocate $10 million towards the UBI. I think we should see the data first before we start allocating that money. You know, $10 million could do a lot of things in District 2. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Hazel Watson, then Cassidy Vang. Hazel Watson, then Cassidy Vang.
Hello. My name is Hazel Watson, and I work for Sacramento Area Congregations Together, which is part of Pico, California. And it is amazing to be a community organizer in the city of Sacramento, where you can go to the swing building in the morning and come to City Hall in the evening. But it's all the same conversation. It's all the same conversation. It's all the conversation about money and where the money should go and who can do what with the money. We believe, as a faith-based organization, not in scarcity but in abundance. We believe that the money is in California. It's the 5th largest economy in the world. Mayor Steinberg, you came up with a creative way to get more money into mental health funding. So we know the money is there. But we have to look at our priorities and we have to look at where we're going with it. We have another value that says the people who are closest to the pain have the best solutions to the problem. The pain is in the community. And you wanted good solutions to those problems, so you picked people who are close to those problems, who work with those youth, and you put them on a strategic planning commission, and they worked hard for you. Please honor the work that they have done. Pass that strategic implementation plan the way it was written. I thought it was really interesting 2 weeks ago when you started bringing up bathrooms, because I have another group of organizing people who want bathrooms open in parks, who are desperate to have bathrooms in parks.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Cassidy Vang, then George Vang, then Sunshine Cow.
Good evening, Mayor Steinberg and City Council members. My name is Cassidy Vang. I'm a young adult with Hmong Innovating Politics. I grew up in District 5 of South Sacramento. I'm here to vocalize my support for the strategic investment plan brought forward and unanimously approved by the commissioners who represent your respective council districts. In my youth, I lived next to a park where I experienced bullying and racism. I spent many sleepless nights hearing gunshots followed by sirens and helicopters outside my window. At the age of 11, a homicide took place at the park, and I was forcefully awakened from my sleep to multiple semi-automatic guns pointed at me. Under false suspicion, my family and I experienced law enforcement searching and destroying my home and interrogating us. The caveat to having access to public parks and recreational facilities for communities like mine is that it has notoriously been the location where intersectional disparities involving discrimination and violence occur and thrive. In high school, I joined a program for a community-based organization called Asian Resources Incorporated, where they provided me with employment preparation, career guidance, and career placement assistance. During the program, I gained basic life skills, such as tenacity, public speaking, and financial literacy. Thanks to the support of CBOs, I discovered the importance of self-sufficiency. This invaluable knowledge gave me the confidence to pursue higher education at my dream college, UCLA. And now, as a UCLA alumnus who defied many odds, I hope the words I've shared with you today amplifies the importance of CBOs and their impact on the lives of our youth. I urge you all again to unanimously vote yes and approve the Commissioner's recommendations for the SIP presented in order to honor the intent of the measure, which is to support the vulnerable youth who are impacted by violence, substance abuse, and homelessness in Sacramento. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. George Vang, then Sunshine Cow. George Vang, Sunshine Tao, then Athena Tao.
Good evening, Mayor Steinberg and City Council members. My name is George Vang, and I'm here on behalf of Hmong Innovating Politics to urge you to allocate the Sacramento Children's Fund to our most at-risk youth. I know firsthand how vital community-based programs are. I've been through the juvenile system, the foster care system, jail, prison, and without these youth programs and caring mentors, I would not be standing here today. And the love and belief from my caseworkers, teachers, foster parents literally changed the trajectory of my life. Thanks to those opportunities, I've graduated from Sac State with a bachelor's. I became a national debater and intern in DC this past spring. Now, all I want to do is give back to my community. Without funding like the Sacramento Children's Fund into the right services, I would not have this second chance at life. So as Mayor Steinberg noted 2 weeks ago, the fund isn't large, so it's even more critical that we use it with intention and purpose. The measure that established this fund was created with the intention of providing real support to those who really need it most. Let's not deviate from that purpose. The data is clear. Our most vulnerable children are in areas of facing poverty, mental health crisis, and instability. Let's focus this fund where it will make the greatest impact in communities hit hardest by youth suicide, homelessness, and the lack of education access. This fund was designed to support those who need it most. Let's follow the data and ensure every dollar is used wisely, just as it was for me. Invest in our at-risk youth now, creating a ripple effect across Sacramento to change our future. I urge you to listen to the organizations that have come before you to allocate for the Sacramento Children's Fund to be used for improving the lives of our youth and not public infrastructures. These organizations are on the front lines working directly with at-risk children and families, and they understand the critical needs of our community. Allocating these funds towards programs that support mental health education and opportunities for vulnerable youth will have a far greater long-term impact than using them for infrastructure projects. This fund is created to uplift our children, and it is vital that we stay true to.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Our next speaker is Sunshine, then Athena. Your time is complete. Sunshine Tao, then Athena Tao, then Dao Vang.
Good evening, Mayor Steinberg and City Council members. My name is Sunshine Tao, and I reside in District 8 of South Sacramento with Mai Vang. Hi, Mai. As a transitioning youth, I urge to use the Sacramento Children's Fund as it adheres to the Measure Charter to fully support the future of our young people and not divert the fund elsewhere. Many of the community-based organizations are here today to serve as a lifeline for our most vulnerable young people. I've heard countless stories from my peers who say that these CBOs have pulled them off the streets, given them a place that feels like home, and made them feel heard, even in the face of significant challenges. I understand that because our city encompasses many diverse areas, some of these stories may not resonate with you. However, I believe these stories carry weight because I grew up in South Sacramento, a community that's often forgotten and left behind. We cannot keep making the same broken promises for our youth and expect different results. It is time for us to invest in our future. The Sacramento Children's Fund is not just a line item in the budget. It is a lifeline for countless youth who are searching for hope, direction, and opportunity. When we allocate these funds as intended, we empower organizations that provide critical resources, mentorship, and safe spaces for young people to thrive. I urge you to listen to the voices of our youth and organizations that serve them. We need programs that focus on education, mental health support, and career readiness. These are the pillars that will uplift our community and create pathways for success. By ensuring that the Sacramento Children's Fund is utilized to its fullest potential, we can cultivate an environment where young people feel valued and supported. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Athena Tao, then Dao Vang, then D'Angelo Mack, then Rios Rios.
Good evening, Mayor Steinberg and City Council members. My name is Athena Tao, and I'm a youth with Hmong Innovative Politics. Although I currently reside outside of city boundaries, my formative years were spent in District 8 of South Sacramento. 2 weeks ago, I stood before you to share my childhood experiences. Today, I want to emphasize how a community-based organization like HIP has helped me navigate these challenges and trauma as a young person. Their support has been invaluable in guiding me through difficult times and empowering me to create positive change in my life and community. Recently through HIP, I had the opportunity to participate in a program called Yo Cali, where I heard many of my peers share their struggles. Some were in and out of juvenile facilities due to the lack of available programs to guide them. What resonated with me most was how many relied on grassroots organizations as vital outlets and support systems. These organizations provided them with the guidance and community that they desperately needed, highlighting the importance of having accessible resources for our youth. To me, this proved testament that these resources are a lifeline for our most vulnerable population. While interesting neighborhood facilities like parks and pools is important, providing mental health services, mentorship programs, and educational resources is crucial for our children's success. Only then we can truly create an ecosystem where our young people are thriving. I urge the City Council to consider the future of our youth and vote yes to adopt the strategic investment plan proposed by the commissioners you selected to represent you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Dao Vang, D'Angelo Mack, and then Rios Rios.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Dao, and I'm the field manager for Hmong Innovating Politics, and I currently reside in District 8. Just wanted to take some time to remind the City Council that this ballot initiative represented a truly grassroots effort driven by our community. It reflects the voices and the concerns of the residents, and it's also really important to recognize the hard work and dedication that made this really possible. Having worked on the measure myself, we really framed this campaign as by and for the people, especially our young people. The results from 2 weeks ago and today clearly shows that people have spoken. And I also wanted to address some points from last meeting's conversation. Firstly, that yes, the C tool is not the definite answer for our community's need. While it can be a valuable resource, it should be considered as one of the several tools to guide decision making. More importantly, the fund is designated to target specific populations rather than geographical locations as well too. And based on last conversation, it was also very disheartening to hear that the City Council wants to divert the funding into more bathroom parks when the chief and sole purpose and intent of the fund is to support positive youth development and youth violence prevention. We also did not intend the city to fund the park's bathroom nor address all of the YPC's deferred maintenance as well too. And something to also know is that it's also very disheartening that y'all asked YPC to present, especially when they did not consult the commissioners at all, especially when we gave y'all 2 weeks as well too. And last but not least, Mayor Steinberg, I know you often get labeled as a bad guy, but I think during your state address, especially when you spoke about steering away from business as usual and embracing a new approach, I wholeheartedly believe in that vision. And with this, we do really have the unique opportunity to be transformative and not maintain the status quo as you had mentioned. Therefore, I urge you all to adopt the plan presented forward by your own city commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is D'Angelo Mack. Next speaker is D'Angelo Mack, then Reyes Rios, Ignacio Taylor. Please proceed.
Good evening. Okay. Did you hear that? No? That's because there's a difference between hearing and listening. You can no longer hear because you did not listen. You didn't listen to the countless young people who cried out to you in the past, who have since lost their lives, who have since become shooters that you so love to villainize and fear. And if you had listened closely just now, you would have heard them say, "Why have you held on to resources that could have saved my life? Why do you continue to prioritize everything else when you say I'm the future?" You would have heard them say, "The time is now, give us what's ours." That minute was offered to the voiceless. That minute.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete.
Santino Contreras. That minute was offered to Stefan.
D'Angelo Mack, please take your seat. Your time is complete.
D'Angelo.
For Matt Mola, for Maurice Brown, for Evan Johnson,
D'Angelo Mack, your time is complete. Please take your seat.
your promise tonight.
D'Angelo, please take your seat. Your time is complete.
Don't sit above us, sit with us.
Your time is complete. Please take your seat. Our next speaker is Reyes Rios. Our next speaker is Reyes Rios, then Ignacio Taylor, then Sherry Martinez. Just one moment, please. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Council. My name is Reyes Rios. I'm the chair of the Sacramento City Youth Commission. And I'd just like to say, so 2 weeks ago today, we were here to give our unanimous support for the strategic investment plan. Today, I have the honor of saying that the time is now. Now for the city of Sacramento to inflict lasting change on the youth of this city. This plan is more than allocating money. It is a vision for the future of youth in Sacramento. A future where youth homelessness and violence doesn't exist, especially after what we've seen this past weekend. And and a future where youth don't have to deal with substance abuse, mental health crises, and the scary event of aging out of foster care alone. By investing in youth, the leaders of today and tomorrow, we set a strong foundation for the future of our city that we care about so much. With this, I call on the youth of Sacramento to get active, to use their voices and actions to make a difference, as we have seen today. There isn't a problem out there too big for the youth to solve. And I'll end with reminding all of us to seize this moment and make this decision that will turn this well-planned vision into a reality. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ignacio Taylor and Sherry Martinez.
You're good. Hello, City Council members. Once again, my name is Ignacio Taylor. At last meeting, I spoke to you regarding my time in the foster care system and the impacts it's had on myself and family as well. To you all, 2 weeks to come back together was not much time, but to tribal foster youth, these 2 weeks were life-changing. My brother was incarcerated last week due to being homeless and no resources as he is transitioning from foster care. At this moment, I feel no one cares about us tribal foster youth, so I'm here again to ask that you all support us and pass this as the commission proposed it. The guaranteed basic income piece will be the start for life-altering change we need in the system today. Thank you.
Next speaker is Sherry Martinez. Following Sherry is Jazen Tabbitt, then Haley Washington.
Good evening. When I was 18 years old, I bought my house in District 2, and I've lived there since. Mayor Steinberg, when you were in Assembly, I was fighting for patients' rights with other fellow activists and coming to town hall and met friends. I knew Sean Tao when he was working for Ellen Warren. And I think it's great that the youth are coming out here and using their voices, and I think you should always stick up for what's right. I think that no matter where this money goes, there for sure needs to be checks and balances. For example, how I'm on the planning committee for the D2 Bike Fest. We reached out to Saba, and Saba wanted to charge us to do a bike valet, but Sac Bike Kitchen ended up donating the equipment so we can do it ourselves since this will be a twice-a-year event. So is someone double dipping, or they talk a good talk? But anyways, that's besides the point. We've done 7 bike trail cleanups and been active in cleaning up parks and painting parks and curbs. And we've had the children from the community come out eager and ask us what we're doing and join. There's a whole Afghan community of children that need our help, just community help. So just as a community, like, I don't know where Sacramento is going anymore. So I feel like here I am back at City Hall fighting for what's right, I guess. So yeah, I guess I'm in support, but I would like to see checks and balances and make sure that the money is going to where it needs to go for good purposes. Thank you for your time.
Comments? Jaden Talbot, and then Haley Washington.
So hi everyone, my name is Haley Washington, a part of District 2. I'm a leader, youth, and advocate with Impact SAC. So when young people are supported with the funding that the city provides, they all have the potential to challenge themselves and to push for institutional and legislative reforms, as well as transform themselves as well as their communities. And we also want you all to know that young people are so important, not only because they are young, but because they possess the ability to have the amount of access and effort to make a change. They also have essential skills as motivation and innovation. Youth are more change-oriented and risk-adverse. We elected you all to help us and work with us to make change, but it doesn't look like that's actually happening. We will not stop our work, and we will continue to have our voices heard. Let our voices be heard and help us make a change. We will be heard, and we will not be silenced. Thank you.
Comments? Speaker is J. Jen Talbot, then Zavea Marshall.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jaden Talbot. I was here about 2 weeks ago speaking about this issue, and I'm here with more confidence than I had last time. And this is not something that I believe, but this is something that I know that will help and serve our youth of today. We are losing so many of our youth every single day. We're losing so many of my friends, your kids' friends, my peers, my classmates, solely because they don't have the resources that they need to survive. They don't have the proper places to go or the proper programs to be in to help them stay out of trouble. Our voices are powerful and they need to be heard. We have waited long enough for this decision, and we have given you the time, and we require an answer today to better the tomorrow today. I support Project Positive, and this is my dream, my hope, and my vision for the future of our youth. Thank you very much for your time.
Hello again. I'm Zariah Marshall, the project manager for the Consultant and Violence Prevention Programs at Impact SAC. 2 weeks ago, we came up here to show you the importance of building community for the youth. We came in hopes that you guys would vote to pass Measure L then. We brought out our youth who were open and vulnerable enough to share their stories and needs with you. While you claim to listen, even though it still doesn't seem like it, honestly. Since then, let me reiterate that there are youth that are lost, afraid, and dying right now. Whether it may be because of drugs and alcohol or guns or whatever else, they need all the youth orgs that are here in front of you today and more. We, the youth orgs, give the youth the guidance and the safe spaces that they need to thrive, and we cannot do this without the proper funding. So what's up? Like, seriously, what's up? I'm trying to figure it out. We're sitting here, we're catering to the youth, we're helping these kids, we're giving them the courage and providing them the platform to come up here and demonstrate their power to you, demonstrate their voices to you. So it seems like we've all done what we're supposed to do, and the youth done what they're supposed to do. So it's your turn. So what's up? Thank you. Pass Measure L.
Comments? Our next speaker is Paris Dye, then Christina Rogers. Paris, and then Christina.
We talk to our youth a lot. Our mission is to connect people to power. The first thing we do is connect them to the power of their voice, because we know that when you use your voice, things get done, things happen. Councilmember Jennings, you started the Violence Prevention and Intervention Task Force. It's still going. There's remnants of your work that live on today. You stand 10 toes down for violence prevention. Your heart's in the work. We bring our youth. They come to speak to you, and we can't. We're gone. Chairs are turned. But politicians, when you're running for office, you speak about how important it is to bring youth to you, how much you want to hear them. But then when we bring them, you talk to each other. We researched Kaplan. We researched you. We know that you wanted parks. But today, there's young people here. But you're talking. Your chairs are turned around. Pay attention. You have an obligation. You are an elected officials. People put their votes to you. People supported you, and you never once said, oh, when I get to city council, I'm going to leave the chambers when kids are talking. We're talking about kids just died. Can you look their mother in the face and tell them that you're going to take some funding to keep the next kid alive to fix a bathroom when we know there's city funding? Somebody misappropriated something for the parks to get where they are today, and it is not the children that this fund is supposed to support. That's not who misappropriated. It's either some of you that are sitting in these chairs now, the people who sat in these chairs before you, or the people who are going to sit in the chairs after you. They misappropriated the funds that got the parks to where they are now. Don't make our children pay for that. Hold the people accountable and honor the work of the commission that put this recommendation forward. And
thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Our next speaker is Christina Rogers. Our next speaker is Christina Rogers, then Amoni Durham.
Good evening, City Council. We have over $140 million in deferred maintenance. There are parks and bike trails in Sacramento that people do not use because they are unsafe or downright dangerous to children and families. There are many advocating on this Measure L money, and I think that there's enough to go around. The city should be prepared to make a new commitment to core services first, and that means resolving park deferred maintenance costs. What's a better youth program than our parks? Children use city pools and splash pads. They play in baseball and soccer fields. They thrive at community centers. Families, especially those who are living on a very tight income, rely on Sacramento's parks for weekend breaks and outdoor time. They want to have birthday parties, baby showers, and other celebrations in our parks. Sacramento is the state capital. We should be an example of what all of California's parks should be for every culture, color, and income level. Many of our parks, especially those in lower income neighborhoods, are unused because residents find them to be dangerous and unhealthy. What use is a youth program if there isn't a safe and clean park to have it at? I ask that you first focus on your duty as elected leaders. There is a debt owed to our parks. It's predicted Measure L will produce around over $50 million in the next 5 years. I say around $10 million should go to closing the deferred maintenance gap and to continue the maintenance and management of our parks and bike trails. Even one unsafe and unused park in our city should be an embarrassment to our city leaders. You promised Measure L would make our parks better. It's time to follow through with that promise. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. I have 16 more speakers. Amoni Durham, Angelina Hinojisa.
Mayor, question.
Yes.
Can I ask that the audience please respect the opinions of people coming up to the dais and not shout at them when they...
Yeah, it's part of the great challenge that I'm going to speak about when it's my turn. People have strongly held opinions about really important and good causes across the board here. And I think it's really important that we all respect the points of view of everybody in this room, because this is about trying to meet a lot of needs in our community. And in the end, the council will deliberate about this. But please, let's try to stay together and listen to one another and respect one another's opinions. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Amoni and then Angelina.
Good evening. My name is Imani Durham. I'm 17 years old. I'm a member of the Siksika Nation of the Blackfoot Confederacy, and I'm currently a student at Sac State. I'm here representing District 5 today, and once again here to discuss the Sacramento Children's Fund Strategic Investment Plan. The more time we wait, discussions of the air won't matter if our youth keep taking their last breath on the streets. The more time we wait, the quality of life won't matter if our kids keep dying. Things like this need to be considered when we're talking about the Strategic Investment Plan. How many youth have to die for you to all realize that the clock is ticking and that we lack resources to do our jobs and protect our youth? My uncle, Barry Axius, the founder of Voice of the Youth, has dedicated his life since 2008 to serving our community and has consistently watched the city time and time again fail our youth and watch them get killed. My auntie Leticia Aguilar, sitting behind me today, has done the same thing for our Native girls and watched the cycle continue herself. So we have all this going on and nothing's changing. We've given you the opportunity and nothing's changing. We keep getting up here and nothing is changing. Once again, I watched my own brother die a week after his 18th birthday because of the lack of resources due to situations like this. You keep pushing the funding back. More kids are gonna die. 5 kids just died this weekend. A 12-year-old boy couldn't even make it to high school, couldn't even make it to his 8th grade promotion, but he died. He saw a tombstone before he saw a diploma. How does that work? And it's things like this that I need all of you to consider today. We need you to pass Measure L the way that it was intended. We need you to go ahead and give us our money, period.
Our next speaker is Angelina, then Nancy Acevedo.
Sintamana Wanoanan Kanima. Hello, friends and relatives. My name is Angelina Hinojosa. I'm part of Native Sister Circle. My tribe is Prince Pomo Nation. Me and my cousin were at the candlelight visual of the 12-year-old boy that passed. He passed in broad daylight. The mother was a great mother, and he had a big supportive family. His name was Santino Contreras. Just imagine if he had the resources we've been asking and advocating for. How much does it take? He was only 12 years old. And I guarantee you a bathroom in the park is not going to save us. This showed us the deep disparities faced by our youth and their families. To effectively support them, we need strong partnership between the city and community organizations. Organizations have long-standing connections to the land and to the people, employ staff who reflect the experiences of the tribal communities we serve, and provides culturally grounded services that resonate with our youth. Are you listening? This is why we urge the council to propose and allocate approximately 65% of Sacramento Children's Fund resources to community-based organizations. These organizations are the lifeline to ensuring that our tribal youth and all youth have the culturally relevant support they need to thrive and still be here today, not taking our last breaths. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Nancy Acevedo, and then Allegra Taylor, then Felicia Chan.
Good evening. Wow, I'm all for allocating Measure L funds to our youth, but I also think that it's very important that we goes to some of our parks also for our deferred maintenance. Like my associate said, we need more parks for our kids to be able to go to safely. We've done many cleanups on our bike trail because that is one of our parkways that we want to make it safe and clean for our kids to ride their bikes and for others. One of our last bike cleanups, we met up with a bunch of kids and a leader from the Afghanistan community. In talking with these kids, they let us know that they're concerned about the safety of the bike trail. And these are people who come from a war zone. They're refugees from Afghanistan. And to let us know that they were worried about the safety on the bike trail just kind of blew my mind. It's like you come from this background and yet you're worried about the safety of your children on our bike trail within our city. We had a meeting with the Afghanistan community. We reached out to them to try and help them get acclimated in our community. And again, this was one of their concerns during our meeting. This was also attended by Sean Tao and his guide, Nia Vu. And this really resonated with me. So I'm just trying to let everybody know that this is an issue, that it's not just something that we go out and clean. We want to make sure that it's safe for our kids. And one of their also concerns was the parks that are nearby, which is Triangle Park and Jack Rea Park. They are not safe. They don't feel comfortable there with letting their women take the mothers
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Our next speaker is Allegra Taylor, Felicia Chan, and then Shannon Williams.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. So let me start with Telemontes. You want to correct people about decorum of how to act inside the City Council members when you, 90% of the time, have been dismissive of everybody that's been up here
Just
speaking.
address the
and I
entire.
find that disrespectful to our youth.
Address the entire council,
listen,
please.
You
Not one member.
said that you weren't going to interrupt me this time.
Address
Last time I was the only one that you interrupted, and now
I'm
you're interrupting
sorry.
me again.
But we're
So
not
I'd like
going
my
to
time
do
back.
personal things with members. Address
I'd
the
like
whole
my time
council.
back.
Go ahead. Give her 2 minutes. Go ahead. but no more.
Okay, I said what I need to say. Listen, it is disingenuous for you all to spend money, hire somebody to survey and discover how it is that they're going to allocate these funds. You got people from each of your districts to represent your districts. Those people spent the time, a lot of time, putting the plan together. Then you come in, the city comes in, and they want to dip into the funds. So if they dip into the fund, you're already getting the percentage that you're getting to run the money. That's 20% the first year, 15% the second year. If you turn around and give 25% to the parks, that's 45% the first year that comes out of the funding. Now, it has been said, it has been analyzed. They brought you what you asked for, and then you disregard it. Listen, I realize the parks might need to get fixed, and there are some things that need to be done, and we as the people utilize those parks. But the funding needs to come from somewhere else. You all always figure out a way to dip in and take away from the youth. It's been 2 years. I said that last time. I'm saying it again. You see, I am because we are, all of us. And we are because I am. And today I stand here in proxy of the Village Advocate youth who were boots on the ground for Measure L and was present 2 weeks ago when you guys decided not to take the vote. Take the vote. Vote yes according to what has been recommended. Your other plans, you need to come up with another plan, Mayor, and I find it really challenging for you to always find it a way to interrupt me when I'm speaking, Mayor. I don't like it, and I just want to let you know that.
Your comments, Felicia Chan, then Shannon Williams. Our next speaker is Felicia Chan, then Shannon Williams, Nicole Kravitz-Wirtz, Monica Ruelas-Mayers. I don't see Felicia. Shannon Williams. And then Nicole Kravitz-Wirtz, then Monica Ruelas-Mayers.
Good evening. I'm Shannon Williams. I have the honor of being the District 4 Commissioner for the Sacramento Children's Fund. Thank you for your robust conversation regarding the strategic investment plan that we presented 2 weeks ago. I have a couple of comments as a private citizen. First, I'd like to emphasize that this plan was developed to be aligned with the language and intention of Measure L. I urge you to keep the integrity of the SIP, especially the prioritization of funding those who are most impacted by poverty, trauma, and violence. The citizens of Sacramento passed Measure L specifically to fund this population. Second, while I realize that you are all here representing the specific interests of your individual districts, I urge you to recognize that providing supports for those most impacted by poverty, trauma, and violence is imperative to the health and well-being of the entire city. Last weekend, our city lost 5 people, including a 12-year-old boy. Firearm violence is the leading cause of death among our youth and leads to cascading harm across Sacramento. The Sacramento Children's Fund was specifically created to curb this sort of violence that is occurring across the city. And finally, there are many needs within our city that the Sacramento Fund could potentially try and address. However, in my view, it seems misguided to consider deferred park maintenance or other citywide capital expenses as an appropriate way to spend this fund. The sources of this fund, the Cannabis Business Opportunity Tax, is estimated to generate an additional $60 million for the general fund during the same time period covered by our strategic plan. I strongly encourage you to prioritize the funding of YPC and other infrastructure improvements using these general funds rather than using the Sacramento Children's Funds to correct previous budget priorities. Thank you again for your work and your commitment to Sacramento children's and youth.
Thank you for your comments. Nicole and then Monica.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. I am the District 7 Commissioner on the Children's Fund Planning and Oversight Commission, but I'm here speaking in my personal capacity only. And I just want to start by expressing my gratitude for my fellow community members, especially our youth who have shown up tonight, who showed up 2 weeks ago in support of young people and in support of truth-telling, and who have held us rightly accountable to the fundamental spirit and intention of the youth, the communities, and ultimately the voters who overwhelmingly championed and passed Measure L. So at the center of the Children's Fund is ensuring, first and foremost, the provision of significant sustained support to the young people who are hurting most, our city's young people who are most impacted by trauma, poverty, and violence. These young people, our young people who are the most impacted, who are hurting the most, aren't connected to the city's existing programs and services. We aren't going to reach them simply by servicing or replacing lighting or an out-of-order bathroom or doing additional deferred maintenance in our parks. Data shows that 1 in every 10 Sacramento youth and nearly twice as many Black youth ages 16 to 24 are disconnected from mainstream systems of support. They're not working, they're not enrolled in school, and unbalanced because racial and economic segregation are baked into our residential policymaking. They more often live in areas of concentrated disinvestment and exclusion, and they lack opportunity structures to begin with. So I appreciate this body's desire to deliberate on this plan, but respectfully, I was disappointed that we couldn't get this done 2 weeks ago. I heard the refrain that 2 weeks doesn't matter. We all know from this weekend, 2 weeks can make all the difference. And our CBOs are the ones that can meet and are most proximal to our youth that are most disconnected. I urge you to support the plan in its current form, continue to allocate 65% of the resources to our CBOs so that we can indeed reach those young people who are most impacted, who are most hurting most. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, City Council members. Contrary to what you might believe, I actually would have preferred not to be here today. I do feel like we're 2 weeks too late. It's unfortunate that this past weekend there was a tragic death of a 12-year-old in the Meadowview community, a community that I grew up in and that I'm helping raise 2 kids, a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, who I also do take to the parks here in Sacramento. And I also understand that there is a need for park maintenance and park bathrooms. And I heard that clearly from some of the advocates that chose to join us here today. And I actually want to do a call out to them because, yes, we do need these repairs. Measure L did not intend to go towards parks. And that was written in the ballot measure itself. I'm going to quote the ballot measure. The measure says that the Children's Fund is intended for positive youth development and youth violence prevention programs, and it calls out homeless youth and foster children specifically. And although I do agree with you, Mayor Pro Tem Talamantes, as well as Councilmember Guerra, that we do need parks and park bathrooms, I've heard from many of you as well that this money is a drop in the bucket. So let's start to prioritize what the actual need is and what the intent of the measure is. In the spirit of collaboration and moving forward, I do want to suggest that we see this funding as an opportunity to build on the strengths of both city and CBO programs, that we don't look at it as an us versus them. This is an opportunity for us to truly collaborate, and let's sit at the table together. I know in the past 2 weeks, you guys have been having conversations internally about what this funding can go towards, and it really dawns on me that as we're moving forward, our youth are still struggling. They're still getting killed, and we can't wait 2 more weeks. We can't wait any longer. I'd appreciate a yes vote on this.
Laura Lockhart, then Marie Cano, then Marbella Sala, then Keon Bliss, and then Jackie Santos. Please proceed.
Hello, my name is Lauren Lockhart, and I'm a first-generation college grad that graduates in the fall of 2025. Growing up in Sacramento, especially Oak Park, there was never opportunities for us youth. Growing up in the hood and organizations such as Impact SAC and more, we never had that. We are having youth nowadays joining gangs, growing up in broken homes, and turning to the streets for love or for support. And many of my friends and classmates has died as a result of violence. And for Sacramento, change needs to happen. As a community, we should all come together as one and help the youth, especially in underprivileged communities in our neighborhoods, to make it safer. We should have the youth develop life skills they need in life, such as help them on financial literacy. Our youth will be the next city council members when you guys retire, and as an organization that helps youth, we need to lead the youth straight and not astray from the communities that they grew up in. For Karina Telemontes, Eric Yua, and Katie Maple, this section is for you guys that is slightly opposed and opposed. This is pertaining to Measure L. We do not need more parks. We need more support and more homes built for underprivileged youth and people living on the streets. If we don't have that, then what is the point of the Measure L resource? This is for use only and not parks and bathrooms. I respect all the council members for their time to listen to why we should pass Measure L. We need an answer today and not wait another few years again. The youth needs us, and it's time to give back to the communities. To the council that is leaning / in support, I thank you, and you will help us make a change in the world. They are counting on us for us to make this a better future for them, with a lot of opportunities to also grow and learn more about our communities, especially for our youth and young adults. We should be able to have more shelters, more resources, more jobs in the job market, and create a safe space. Support Project Positive. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you for your comments. Our next speaker is Marie Cano. Marie Cano, Marbella Sala, then Keon Bliss.
Good evening, Mayor Steinberg and City Council members. My name is Marie Cano, and I'm a proud member of Hmong Innovating Politics, who are wearing lavender in the back right corner. As a young mother, my greatest concern is ensuring my children grow up in a safe and supportive environment where they can thrive emotionally, mentally, and physically. Community-based organizations play a vital role in providing essential support to families like mine. They're often the first line of defense against substance abuse, especially among youth. With strong community ties, these organizations can identify early signs of substance misuse and intervene with educational programs for both parents and children. With increased funding, CBOs could expand these programs and reach even more at-risk youth and families, offering culturally relevant support that city organizations may not provide. Organizations like HIP have made a significant difference in my life by allowing me to bring my children to work, creating an inclusive environment where we felt welcomed. Even at a young age, my kids have had opportunities to communicate and participate in activities, which has helped them grow socially and emotionally. This flexibility allows me to work while staying close to my children, something larger city programs may not accommodate. As parents, we all want the best resources for our children. Therefore, I urge you to adopt the plan brought forward by the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Marbella Sala, then Keon Bliss.
Good evening, Mayor and Council Member. I'm Marbella, and I'm here as a Measure U Commissioner and Vice Chair of the Measure U for District 3. And again, I want to commend you on the appointment of an outstanding commission. Each one of your commissioners put hours of work, dedication, and strategy in developing the plan. And I don't think you could have come up with a better plan. It was in collaboration with your city staff, outside consultants, and the community. So I urge you to support their plan. But I also want to make a recommendation as Measure U Commissioner. Measure U gets over $100 million a year. And that measure was dedicated, and we voted for it, and other things for parks, libraries, programs in underserved communities. So my commitment to all of you is for the 25-26 budget, our recommendation will be that you use Measure U monies to prioritize park, bathrooms, and infrastructure, that money for Measure U can go towards that, and that could be your priority, and it can address the issues that people are saying with parks. I agree, we need attention to parks. And one more thing, we as a community should revisit getting a tax to fund our parks and transportation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Keon Bliss, then Jackie Santos. I have 5 more speakers. So Keon, then Jackie.
Are you really listening to the people that are in this audience right now? Do you actually care or honor the work that your appointed commissioners on the Youth Commission and the Measure L Commission have actually been doing in this? If you are, then you would be passing this as is, rather than trying to carve out exceptions to cover for your city manager who allowed maintenance to be deferred for so many years. And that's really the reality that we're at. This is about money, right? And as you just heard from one of your other commissioners, there is plenty of money in this city. I do not believe for a minute that there is such a level of scarcity that you need to take from a voter-approved measure that was expressly to go to benefit youth, directly impacted youth, just to cover for your developers, friends. This is that deferred maintenance is his mess, your mess that you allowed to happen. And there's plenty of money to go around, $100 million a year in Measure U that's dedicated to parks, youth programs, which can be used for that deferred maintenance. How about you revisit the 175 or more vacancies that are in the Sacramento Police Department, which by my analysis amounted to about $10 million to $30 million that this council left on the table last June. You could actually cut back on additional military equipment, which just last month you are authorized Sacramento Police Department to pursue close to $100,000. There's a lot you could do, but I really don't think you're actually listening because really, you're not in control here. He is. And you're more interested in serving his interests than our own, your constituents.
Our next speaker is Jackie Santos, and then Genesis Johnson.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Jackie Santos, and I'm here on behalf of STAR. Thank you for this opportunity to share the importance of investments for youth programs for our communities. STAR has been a big part of my life over the 2 years that I've been involved with the program. They have helped me see the opportunities in front of me that will get me to places I want to be in the right way. Youth programs help the youth community grow and be the best version, help the youth community grow and be the best versions of themselves, free of violence. Our mentors at SAR help us stay on the right path and help us move ahead in life. These programs can help youth stay out of gang-related issues, including gang violence, drug abuse, or gun violence by giving them opportunities to thrive and use their energy in positive ways. Please invest in the youth of Sacramento, and as we need this to magnify the senseless violence that is occurring way too often, like in the past weekend. Thank you for listening on behalf of me and SAR.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Genesis Johnson, then A. Oro, and then Jay Franco.
Good morning, council members and mayor. My name is Genesis Johnson. I'm here speaking on behalf of the youth program as I graduated from SAR, and my goal is to become a firefighter, to pursue to help our environment, because there's a lot of kids that's going through tragical moments and they need saving. There's so many it's not all races are having these problems. We need to stand up and just start giving these kids some joy. They need people in their lives. I've seen so many other friends that they're homeless and they need someone to hug on because they just heard their other friend just got shot. Or it's just dangerous. It's dangerous out there. We just need more love for these children. Just try to make their lives, try to make their goals something that's real. Because I was just about to read this, but I'm just coming straight forward right now. I'm letting the Holy Spirit speak to me right now. Because I just want some love. Like, everybody needs love in their life, and they need peace to move forward. Because it's dangerous. That's all. It's dangerous out here. You got people shooting. Everybody got gun violence. It's always about drug abuse. Like, why can we not think about another way to break that apart? Like, let's think about a program that can help everyone and it just be peaceful. Peace is a wonderful thing. We just keep on doing this and we could bring joy to everyone. That's all. That's all I have to say. You guys have a good day, but still we got to start making this happen. Thank you.
Our next speaker is A. Oro, and then Jay Franco is our final speaker.
Good evening. My name is Adro. I'm with United Way California Capital Region, your local United Way. And I want to first thank the council for a few things. First, their existing investments in GI. We have seen that the city's program works to help get basic needs met and provide margin so that rent can be paid and a crisis mitigated without using expensive interventions like payday loans and overdraft fees. In the city's existing program, over 70% of folks avoided those types of fees. Second, appointing a commission that produces a strategic plan that is data-informed and prioritizes populations that are specifically named in the ballot measure, like foster youth. The people closest to the problem are closest to the solution, as mentioned by my colleagues, and our CBOs are on the ground partnering with our community to address historic and systemic barriers to opportunities. There were almost 18,000 applicants for 210 slots for the city's guaranteed income program and the county's guaranteed income program. We urge the council to adopt the strategic plan as recommended by the Children's Fund Commission to make sure that there's enough opportunity for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Jay Franco is our final speaker.
Hello, council. My name is Jay Franco. I'm with Sac Kids First, District 6. I stand with the commission's recommendations as is. I've seen this process play out since the beginning of Measure G. We helped build the coalition, canvas, help write the language, and to the point where we're at now, and I'll be damned if y'all are gonna change that shit. Sorry, excuse me, my bad. Well, in addition to the mayor mentioning possibly cutting down 2 to 3 projects, I also heard that some council members felt like the SEED tool doesn't do justice to their district as it pertains to the city of Sacramento's equity-based prioritization, as previously recommended and approved in the 2040 Parks Plan. This builds on the prioritization system outlined in the 2018 Parks Project Programming Guide. And they, even in the City Parks Maintenance Report on August 1st, there's 3 specific initiatives aiming to use time and resources more efficiently before supplanting or replacing, not adding funds, as previously done with Measure U. These initiatives include aligning schedules to better match park use patterns, task time analysis, and equalizing capacity and coverage for service areas. It's important to note that the 2040 Parks Plan gave direction on how to address deferred maintenance, budget concerns. Their recommendations include identifying a long-term dedicated funding source for ongoing maintenance, operations, and asset management before developing new parks. They even recommended applying any annual surplus of Measure U funds to deferred maintenance projects. While there may not be a surplus right now, right? I don't know. You tell me. The Sacramento Children's Fund shall not be the next bucket to grab from. So if parks are the concern, I can support a park bond or something. I don't know. Sidewalks near schools, get a, yeah. But it's time for the city to align with the 2040 Parks Plan and the Sacramento Kids for Children's Fund Commission recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I have no more speakers.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. City Manager had a brief comment, and I'm going to speak and lay out a proposal. Then I'm going to go through and turn it over to my colleagues. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want, this council is going to consider the recommendation brought forward tonight following comments from 2 weeks ago, and that's going to run its course how it's going to run its course. It's really, this body gets to decide. What I want to do is set the record straight, though. There was a couple of speakers early on. I was respectful in listening to their comments, and from their perspective, it is accurate, and they feel pretty strongly about it. What I take exception about is that somehow there was insinuation that our team and this council, and specifically YPC, has misappropriated funds. And that is just beyond the pale here. In fact, YPC, if you've watched the budget presentation, there are so many things they do for the community, ranging from pools and community center hours, the senior programs, on and on and on, 4th R, START. So to attack the team like that is completely uncalled for. Further, when they were talking about how city funds were misappropriated, some of the commenters benefited to the tune of over $500,000 currently. So either we're misappropriating the funds or we're not. It can't go both ways. And I just wanted to make sure that this council understood this. And, Mr. Bliss, who made his comments, he talks about how, the budget is, the way that we adopt it does not address, these outstanding deferred maintenance funds. This council approves the budget every single year. We have a list of over $100 million in deferred maintenance that we recommend, and this council prioritizes every year. So I just wanted to make sure I put that on the record and just set the record straight for some of the nonsense that's being said out here. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Bill? I appreciate it. Okay. I want to see if I can try to bring this together just a little bit. First of all, I do want to talk about, because I think it's important to address why it is I recommended strongly that we not vote 2 weeks ago, because I know some people said, well, it's 2 weeks too late because of the terrible, terrible tragedies that occurred over the last weekend. But there was a very good and rational reason for the benefit of the commission and the community why I recommended that. In my view, if we had voted last Tuesday on the commission's recommendations as is, it probably would have been, my judgment, a 5-4 vote in favor. Okay, big victory. I'm leaving the city council. Councilmember Valenzuela is leaving the city council, and Councilmember Tao, who I believe would have been part of that 5, are leaving the city council. And the replacements might think differently or vote the other way. So again, emotion is raw and real, and it's actually understandable given what's occurred in our community over this past week. But rhetoric, got to be careful with the rhetoric as well, and be careful what you wish for. Because yes, we could have voted 2 weeks ago, and it would not have been as good a result as what I hope will be the result here this evening. So that's one thing. That's all okay. I want to agree with much of what the city manager just said, with a slightly different conclusion. The work of this city team is outstanding. And it's true, the city council does support and basically determine the budget priorities. And what this is really all about is scarcity of resources. That's what this is really about. And that in large part is why SAC Kids First put Measure L on the ballot, because of a scarcity of resources. And so I think that we all need to do a better job of trying to step in one another's shoes and to understand that there are outstanding city programs here. On the program side, I mean, I'm thinking about Friday Night Lights. And is that what it's called?
Summer Night Lights.
Summer Night Lights, excuse me, that's the TV show, Summer Night Lights. And some of the outstanding work that the city does, not just during the summer, throughout the entire year. So having said that, I think it is really important that we honor the work of our city team. But given the history of Measure L, and the history is really important, I think tonight it is even more important to honor the recommendations and the work of the Measure L Youth Commission. Not in its, not word for word, because I want to make some suggestions that I think will help bring us together, but I think that's really, really important. Because the truth of the matter is that Measure L only occurred because a passionate group of advocates, youth advocates, decided to organize and to work for actually a decade, almost a decade, to try to qualify and then ultimately pass a measure. And it was a bit of a torturous route, as it often is when you're trying to do something good and great. And I believe, given that history, that not absolute deference, because the measure is written to allow the city council to make the final decision, but deference ought to be given to the recommendations of this commission because of how this measure came to be and how it passed. As I said earlier, I hope, and Monica said this, I thought your testimony was really important and good. There is not great trust between the sides now. I mean, I think that's kind of obvious, in part given the history and who supported Measure L and who didn't and how it came to be. Okay. But the truth of the matter is that this rift over time, if it is a rift or at least tension, needs to heal. Because this is about scarcity. And what we know is that both the vital city programs that work for so many young people in our community and the incredible work that the CBOs do on shoestring budgets, that both sides are underfunded. And the pain is so palpable, especially given what happened over the weekend. We forget the fact that this is a small amount of resources relative to the problems here. And so I look at Ms. Beacham's list, $25 million worth of deferred maintenance in the parks. Well, not only was this measure not intended, frankly, to address that problem, it's not nearly enough to actually make the impact that we want to make. But it's also true the other way. It's not enough money to fund all the gaps that exist in our community, that our community-based organizations are trying to fill as well. And so we have this trust issue. And so what the commission has suggested is some sort of a percentage divide, at least initially, maybe as a way up front to not continue this argument, at least in the short term, and to have some certainty and definition that both the city programs and the CBOs are going to have resources. And that we set aside real money for guaranteed basic income, which may be the best investment of all, given its potential to impact foster youth and, as we expand it, families and families with children. For me, what's unfortunate, and this will all be, again, determined over the course of the years, is not how the money is divided between CBOs and the city. The real challenge is whether or not we are going to invest this small amount of money strategically so that we make the biggest impact. Because to spread it a mile wide and an inch deep may satisfy a lot of constituencies, including the city constituency, the city staff constituency, but it isn't necessarily going to make the greatest impact. But we're trying to get started here. And in the spirit of compromise and in the spirit of respecting that we have CBOs that are hungry for more resources, that we have city programs that are also helping save lives by virtue of opening up community centers and other vital programs on the Friday and Saturday nights. I say we take the commission framework, and Monica, I would like you to please respond to this, please, as chair of the commission, and Mai Vang I know will as well, that we take the city framework, that we commit to 20% for guaranteed basic income, that we set aside the city's administrative costs as is detailed in the report, and then we take the rest of the money, which is about $5.6 million, and we do 50-50. 50 for CBOs and 50 for the city programs, and the question about whether or not the city half can be used for various kinds of maintenance is a case-by-case determination based on the language of the statute and the measure, whether or not it primarily serves youth. Tonight is not an expenditure plan. It's to try to get us started on a way to not have this debate every several months in chambers, but to actually get started in implementation. And maybe over time, the CBO city tension will dissipate and will sort of fuse together, and we'll get closer to Ms. Beacham's and the city manager's recommendation. But that's the way I think we should start. And by the way, so I'd be open to a motion. There's one other thing, and it seems like a minor thing, and it is, but I think it would help here. One of the concerns I've heard about the CBO world, there's this, quote, accountability issue that includes making sure that the working people in the community-based organizations have protection. So I am not suggesting anything close to card check neutrality or any kind of labor protection, but based upon Vice Mayor Maple's suggestion 2 weeks ago, I think it would be helpful if we included the language from Prop 64, which was the cannabis initiative, that simply said if the CBOs get city money, they have to just sign a declaration that says if anyone ever came organizing, that they would be neutral and that they would not interfere in preventing the workers from doing what they want. It really is symbolic, is all that it is, but I think that it would help. I've heard it a little bit from the labor community and respected leadership team here, Vice Mayor Maple and Mayor Pro Tem Talamantes. So I would add that to any intended motion for the CBO side. Obviously, in the city, there's collective bargaining, and the workers are organized. So that would be my suggestion here. And again, not perfect, but it maintains everybody's argument, right? On the 50% on the city side, you can argue for anything, including some of the things Councilmember Guetta, you have talked about, and it makes sure that at a minimum there's 50% that goes out into the community for the CBOs. Ms. Maris, do you have a response at all to what I've just put forward? Be helpful, I think.
Yeah. So I just want to acknowledge that there are other commissioners here in the room.
I understand. You're mine.
And I am your appointee. Yes, it's true. But you know, when you called me to appoint me, I always told you that we may not agree on everything, and we put forward a plan. All of the commissioners, although, and I'll say this because I know that some of you have mentioned that maybe you don't think your commissioners agreed with the plan. We unanimously passed it. This is not Monica's plan. This is not Sackett's versus plan. This is a plan that was passed.
It said approximately 65%. So you did not specify 65%.
Yes. So we said approximately 65%. And I just want to remind folks that to me, any proposal put forth by the city for deferred maintenance or whatever, right, is subject to the open and competitive process.
No question.
And that's something that I've also heard folks. Some of our commissioners are interested in being on those grant reviews, not myself, but some are. And I want to also understand, well, what roles does the city play? Because we're hearing about conflicts of interest on the community's behalf, but also if YIPTY is going to be reviewing its own projects and proposals, it needs to be fair. So I just want to call that out. In terms of your comment of 50-50, we would need to bring that back to the commission because that's not where we were at. We proposed to you all 65-35 split. And so if you're willing to, whatever you feel like, Mayor, at this point.
Well, that's going to be my proposal, so thank you. Appreciate your comments. Appreciate your comments. Good.
Okay.
No, I wanted to hear a response. Now let's hear from my colleagues.
So, if I may, thank you. I was next in the queue, I believe. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to start by thanking everybody who commented and came tonight. I want to thank you for speaking. I think you're making very clear through your actions and through your attendance and through your time how important this is. And so I just want to thank you for that. And I do want to apologize for folks who get offended when we stand up. We don't have the bladders we used to have when we were young people. We can still hear you back there. We can still see the stream. And I just want to make sure that you know that at least I can say that you were heard loud and clear tonight. So thank you again for making that time. I want to start by saying that I have parks in my district that don't have public bathrooms. I don't think I have any splash pads in my entire district, and my only pool is closed for repairs. I mean, I don't actually even I have one public high school in my district that doesn't even serve all the kids in my district. It's a magnet school. It's a great school, but the kids in my district all have to go elsewhere. And yet, there are less kids dying from my district than there are dying in Districts 2 and Districts 8 and Districts 5. And so it's not just about, if we're going to make a case for parks maintenance for this money, that needs to be a case based on data. And that case data doesn't reflect what we're seeing in our communities. The difference between my district and Districts 5 and Districts 8 and Districts 2 is that I have investment in my district. I have the LGBT Center. I have Wind Youth Services. I have Sacramento Native American Health Center. I have service provider after service provider after service provider that exists in my district. And while there are many needs that still have to be met, I am lucky that my young people in my district who are LGBT, who are homeless, who are Native, who are BIPOC, have those resources available to them. And I believe more than anything that is the data that shows me what works. Having access to those services in your community is what works. And while there are many projects on this list that I think are very important, I simply cannot make the argument that these are our most urgent needs right now. I just cannot, not just because of the lack of data that I cited in terms of causality. There is no through line that I can draw between those deferred maintenance projects and a kid being less likely to pick up a gun to solve a conflict. I can, however, point to the 2 years that the city had no youth homicides. I can point to that data, and I can show that there is evidence, there's real research across this country that tells us how to solve the problems that we're solving today, and that research is what this commission leaned on for this report, and I want to thank them for that. There was a moment here that I was in a flurry trying to look up how many foster youth are in Sacramento and what is this and how many of them are turning 17. And I actually kind of stopped myself and shook my own shoulders a little bit, not literally, because I was like, wait a minute, why am I doing that? The commission just did that. They did that for months. They looked up that data. Like, I don't need to get into the fine tunes of should it be this or should it be that, because that's what's been done here today. I also have to hear this conversation about deferred maintenance. I have to reiterate what some of the public commenters said briefly, that we dug ourselves that hole, and it's up to us and not our young people to dig ourselves out. My first 3 budgets on this dais, all gave significant ongoing resources to law enforcement at the request of our city manager. I'm talking $30 million 1 year alone. That's ongoing. We didn't cut that money back when the deficit happened. They still have that money. We did that again and again and again. We have chosen on this dais. Somebody asked me, why do you always vote against the budget? I've not voted for a single budget since I've been on this dais, and you want to know why? It's because of this. It's because every single year our community comes to us and says, as they did this year, YPC was the last department, the second to last department on the community service. Please don't cut YPC. Please don't cut YPC. And you want to know, once again, we found reductions and we found revenue generation solutions, right, for increased fees and increased services. And yes, we found money for scholarships, but we also know the deficit of that strategy when it comes to reaching the kids who are most needed. And that is why Measure L occurred. This is not just a quest of young people to get dedicated funding. This is a response to decisions that this council made for years and years and years. Every time there was a budget crunch, the first cut on the table was youth services. Every time there's more money on the table, the first people to get it are public safety. And that's nothing against the job that public safety does. It's just we are continuing to dig ourselves into this hole where we're investing in response after someone gets shot and not in the prevention measures that would keep them from getting shot in the first place. And if I sound frustrated, it's because I am. It's because this happens every year. Every year I say, hey, how about we put a couple $1 million towards public works so we can invest in our streets so people don't get hit by cars. Every year I say, what about this money we are putting into these reactionary approaches to our problems? And every year I read research report after research report from every other city that's like us across the country saying that strategy does not work. And yet we have the shootings that we had this last weekend and the young people's lives that we will never get back and those families that will never be made whole. And we continue to talk about bathrooms. And I can't. I cannot. So I was prepared to just make a motion saying commission's reco is done. But Mayor, I want to appreciate what I believe is a very surgical solution you've proposed. And so I'm going to try to craft a motion, and I'm going to add something of my own because I believe the point about oversight of this money is incredibly well taken. And this is no discredit at all to the YPC staff. I know there will be firewalls. I know it will be different people doing different things. But I also appreciate how the public is going to say, how can you oversee yourself, though, really? And so what I would like to propose with this motion is, A, that we adopt the mayor's suggestion to keep the commission's recommendations in full, except with the one change being how we split up the remaining money after UBI being a goal of 50%, 50%. Again, this was a goal. It was how it was written in the strategic investment plan. It means based on the competitive process, it may be more, it may be less. But if the goal is 50-50 of the remaining money after UBI, I can support that tonight. I was prepared to support your original, but I think that's an elegant solution. I also would like to insist and make a part of this motion that the city attorney's office oversee the RFP process. I think that they should be able to see the community judging and rubric development. I believe they should be able to look and tell us if the best applicant was awarded the money, and that they should have, if the city is awarded money from this fund, some oversight into meeting the required deliverables and reporting that the city is required to do. I'm not saying this because I think there's corruption in YPC or anything wrong. The YPC team is one of the most dedicated teams I've worked with at the city of Sacramento, but I think it's important that we tell the public that there was somebody else's eyes on this, and that if the city gets a grant, it's because this rubric showed that the city was the most qualified versus somebody else. I do think, however, it's really important in that rubric that the high labor costs are not counted against an applicant. And I think that gets to another concern that I've heard expressed. We pay our city workers probably not as much as they would like. I know, I actually know that, looking at our union representatives in the back, but we pay them well. And I don't want their benefits and their salaries to be considered a deficit against maybe a nonprofit who doesn't offer that benefit and salaries. And so I think that should be not a factor in this rubric. I know obviously we want to look at cost effectiveness for service delivery, but the labor cost should not be part of that rubric. If you're paying more because it's a city program, or if it's a program who's opted to pay their workers a living wage, I don't want them to be punished for that by saying, oh, you're more expensive, you're less likely to get the money. Similarly, I want to echo, I was going to word it differently, but again, Mayor, I mean, not being in your brown egg bubble, we had a mind meld moment here tonight. I think the Prop 64 language would be great. I was going to propose the labor peace language, but I think that language makes a lot of sense to make sure that, you know, if for some reason, I don't believe any of the nonprofits in our town will necessarily do that, but if your workers do decide, hey, I want to unionize, you know, not to retaliate, not to interfere, you know, to follow the best practices. And so that will be my motion here tonight, is to forward to approve, I'm going to repeat it just to make sure that I get it all down, to approve the commission's report as written, except with the 50-50 split goal for the remaining 65% after the UBI, to ask the city attorney's office to oversee the RFP process and compliance if the city is awarded a grant, and to ensure that high labor costs are not counted against an applicant and that applicants are adhering to the Prop 64 language around labor organizing. I think I got all of that, and thank you all again for being here tonight.
Let me respond briefly, just because I think the spirit of everything that you suggested is fine. In other words, I do believe, I trust, first of all, the staff recommendation, I know, included putting together composite panels that would include city staff as well as outside, as well as community members. So I think that one needs to play out. I think by definition, the city attorney will be involved in this, right? Because everything we do, CBO-wise, city-wise, should be we must ensure, and I got good nods here from Renee, we need to make sure it's compliant with Measure L, because everyone's going to be watching this carefully. So I would take your amendments in that spirit, okay? In terms of the wage, I'm not sure tonight that, might I suggest that piece be part of further implementation? I know you and I aren't going to be there, but I think tonight,
it could be direction.
It's more direction
to ensure that someone isn't penalized for paying their workers a fair wage.
Okay, fair enough. We'll make that as part of the direction, but it'll really be part of the implementation. I'm willing to accept that. I think that's all consistent with what
That is my motion.
with what I described. Well, it's you're that you're making the motion.
I made the motion.
Made the motion. Good. Is there a second of the motion? My Vang will second the motion.
Ask one clarifying question.
One clarifying
here.
question.
Are we going to use living wage as the baseline to determine what that looks like?
No, I think and this is why it's direction, is because I just want to ensure in whatever rubric, because I know often we look at low cost as one of the judges in our traditional RFPs, but if low cost is coming from lower wages, I want us to figure out how we look at a proposed budget to ascertain that we're not punishing somebody for paying people a higher wage.
And
so I said living wage, but like that's I hope that's clear as mud. All right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there is a motion and a second. Now we'll go to Councilmember Vang.
Thanks, Mayor. First, I really want to take this moment to say thank you to all the youth who came out 2 weeks ago and those who came today and those who have already become parents who's been fighting this fight for so long. I'm so inspired by each and every one of you for showing up, not just today, but in the past, and I know in the future you're going to continue to show up, right? Because we can pass this tonight, but if implementation doesn't happen in the way that it was meant to be in terms of the intent of the measure, the fight continues. And so I just really want to say thank you to everyone who showed up. I think we heard today from our speakers in our communities, right, regarding the shooting that happened across our city, the multiple shootings, and in particular the victim, Santino, who was 12 years old in Meadowview, who attended our neighborhood schools. We have to do better as a city, and we can't become We can't feel like this is normal, and we can't normalize shootings in our city. I think I've heard from so many young people who spoke tonight that have shared with me, you know, how many more of us have to die until we actually change the course of what we're doing in this city. Because I know what we've been doing in this city has not worked. I said this 2 weeks ago, that at the end of the day, this is really about supporting an ecosystem to support our most vulnerable youth. Yes, that includes our city programs. That includes our county partners. And yes, that absolutely includes our community-based organization, who we know are closest to those that are suffering. Our Oversight Commission, appointed by all of us, expertise in their own field, in addition to our Youth Commission, put this recommendation forward. I was prepared 2 weeks ago to vote on that recommendation. And I'll share a little bit why I'm going to be supporting the motion on the table. I still do believe in my heart that the best recommendation on the table is the commission's, both commissions' recommendation, but I'm also cognizant of the votes on this council. And I'm also cognizant that Mayor, while I know some of y'all may not be a big fan, I'm gonna let you all know today, he has been one of our biggest advocates fighting for young people in this city, and he's gonna be gone. And we're gonna need other allies on the city council. It can't just be me, Mayor, and Katie. Cannot. It's gotta be more than that, right? And so I just wanted to name that. I shared this last time, and I'm gonna share this again because I need the community to really, the community and our city staff to understand this, is that, and it's not about, our city staff does incredible work, but there is a reason why our CBO is so important to the ecosystem. I said this last time, that during the pandemic, there's a reason why we went out for our RFP, to reach our most vulnerable seniors, our youth, our babies, our families. We gave those dollars to the CBOs. Why? Because we as a city could not do it alone. We couldn't do it alone, and we needed our CBO. At the end of the day, for me, we're all actually fighting for crumbs. Our parks are underfunded, our youth services are underfunded, but the young people who have fought this fight for a really long time knew that. And that's why they fought so hard for so many years to ensure that there was a dedicated fund just for young people. I know the city does their very best. They try, but simply we know that they can't reach our most vulnerable youth. So I just want to say, yes, now that we have this dollar set aside, it's not a lot, but it's going to begin the work. We also need to support our parks. We need steady revenue for our parks. Yes, I've heard from, members from our community. We have over $146 million in deferred maintenance. And I also just want to lift up what the city manager said. He is right about one thing, that at the end of the day, the decision does fall on this council. And if deferred maintenance was a priority, this council would have done so before Measure L was passed. But I want to say to all of you as well that this is actually how white supremacy operates. It wants us to fight each other. But I hope that we can recognize this and say, no, we're not going to do that. And yes, we're going to support our young people. And yes, we're also going to be creative to ensure we support our parks. So my ask is also, I hope you'll join me and our diverse coalition of neighborhoods from East Sac, South Sac, North Sac, local organization, who's actually having conversations right now about a potential park bond that could support the deferred maintenance. So if you care about parks, join the movement. Join us. Message my office, let me know how you want to get involved, right? Because it's going to take all of us. But today's vote is about keeping our promise to our young people and the voters. The voters had to force this upon the city and this government because we weren't doing our job in reaching our most vulnerable youth. That is the intent of the measure. We're not going to solve all the issues facing our young people in the city just with these dollars. But what we can do with these dollars is make the greatest impact on the youth that's impacted by violence, poverty, and trauma. I think our young people have waited way too long, so I hope we can take the vote tonight. And I appreciate the mayor trying to find middle ground on the 50-50. And I am prepared to vote on the motion on the table with the amendments that Councilwoman Valenzuela put forth. I am counting all the votes, and I'm really hoping that this vote is unanimous, that it's not a 4-5 or even a 6-3. I hope it's a 9-0. That is my hope, and that is my wish, and that's my ask to this council. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mai, for really being the champion behind Measure L. You and Councilmember Chenier, and was happy to carry your bags. You know, appreciate it. Thank you, Councilmember Kaplan.
Thank you, Mayor. I think you perfectly framed it when you said this is about a scarcity of resources.
Yeah.
It's not new that we know we need to do more in all areas. It's what do we do with the money we have? And there's never, unfortunately, ways that we fully agree. But the one thing I do know is if we look at the commission's report on page 5, where it says strategies to achieve fund goals, I don't think one of us disagrees with anything on that page. I truly know in my heart, we look at that and we see, yeah, this is what we know we need to do. I have just a couple of clarifying questions because there were statements made that I just want to make sure the record is clear. Did this 2-week delay getting any money out from Measure L?
No.
So what is now, assuming the council passes this tonight, what is the time frame for getting the funds out after this passes?
So we're still in line with the tentative implementation timeline that we presented on 2 weeks ago. Mid-October for the request for proposals to go out for 30 days. Application review and award process between November and December. Funding awards should be announced by the end of December of 2024. And we would begin contract negotiation and execution of funds between December and January with the hopes that the first set of funds would be in people's hands by January or February.
So no matter if we had passed this last week or now, the funds are still not going to be able to go out until January?
Correct.
Okay. And then one of the things Measure L talks about, as I was reading through the language of Measure L, it talks about qualified organizations are the ones that can submit and be part of the qualification process. Can you just clarify what exactly does a qualified organization mean?
Yes, so per the measure, a qualified organization means a public entity, including the city through its offices and departments, or any organization exempt from taxation under United States Internal Revenue Code, Section 501c3.
Okay, does anything in the recommendation from Measure L prevent or change the definition of a qualified organization?
No.
On it may not make you feel a little better, Councilmember Valenzuela. I do like your thought of grant oversight. On page 26 of the report, it does, because the commission did do a very good job. It specifically says grant proposals should be assessed through the city's competitive RFP and proposal selection process. So I'm interested in, I think, as the mayor pointed out, the proposal selection process would include not only the city, but outside partners to ensure that they are consistent with Section 120 of the Sacramento City Charter and meet the following criteria, of which then it lays out. So I am comfortable with how the commission actually set forth that there is a balance so that there is oversight and it's not just the city. I think the commission thought about that and already baked it in, and it's spelled out in page 26 and 27. So I do support it as that. And I do support, Mayor, you know, as I said, guaranteed basic income, you know, is really important, and we have to fund that. So I think it's clear with the commission report as set out on page 32, where it talks about the funding, I think where at the very end, that is where we split 50-50 of the leftover after guaranteed basic income comes out. So I am supportive of that. I want to add and see if the motioner and the second would be willing to add two slight tweaks. One, as part of determining where to invest, I think we also need to add into it as well with the seed is the welfare tax exemption for affordable housing. If we are building affordable housing, which means those are which qualify as welfare exempt, those are services and areas that are needed and should be considered holistically. Because we talk about we need more affordable housing, and there are pockets throughout the city that may fall out of being seed and part of the seed tool, that we need to make sure that that is also considered as an area where we need to have investment. Because those are kids, when you look at affordable housing, those are also the kids I know that experience, poverty, trauma, and violence, specifically poverty, and they are trying to come out of it. So I would like to see that added in. And then I don't want to steal your thunder, Councilmember Jennings, but I was very supportive of your 1-year review of anybody that we bring on for oversight and data. So I'm hoping those two things of the 1-year oversight and accountability, as well as adding the welfare tax exemption for affordable housing as an indicator would be added. And lastly, I just urge those of us who have been school board members to reach out, because here's the thing. I see a lot of where we're talking about supporting mental health and emotional wellness of youth and preventing and reducing youth substance abuse. We heard that from our youth at summer at City Hall. But a lot of these programs could be done in partnerships with school districts. And we need to actually double check, are school districts doing this? And how can the city potentially partner and strengthen this? Because it really goes to, when you talk about historic disinvestment, that also is an elected body who is historically disinvesting and not investing in schools, where schools can make a life difference in a child. And so we need to ask and make sure that our school board members are stepping up and investing in districts and in schools that are the least among them and hold their feet to the fire, because it is not the job of the council to fill the gap where school districts should be educating our children and giving them things to do before and after school. But we should be partnering, because the siloing, I think, is leaving many things off the table. So I hope that we can add in the oversight and the welfare tax exemption indicator into the motion, please.
Can I ask you, when you talk about the welfare tax indicator, you're saying as one criteria?
There was the seed and COI.
I think what Councilmember Kaplan's saying is that we're just not limited to the C tool and the COI, but that we're also using other tools to evaluate, which I think Parks is open to, Commission is open to. I mean, even in the Commission's recommendation, it didn't say that those were the only tool that we had to use. It was two tools that we could use, but we could keep it open. So
I could just clarify, though. I mean, the report already targets low-income young people, and so I'm not entirely, I feel like that's actually a broader definition than just looking for the welfare tax exemption households, and so I think that's covered. And also the report as written provides for not just annual reviews, but quarterly reports, which I would prefer to keep as proposed. So I don't, I mean, I think we're in alignment, that I don't think there's additional change or motion needed there. And to clarify my motion on oversight, I am asking for more than current process. And I just want to make that crystal clear. I just want to make sure, I'm not asking for CAO to be in the room every step of the way, but I want them to have a little bit more daylight than they might traditionally have in the RFP process, just to ensure that everything from the rubric to the grading to the criteria for the committees is as fair and impartial as it could, and defensible to the public as it possibly could be. And again, this is not an accusation to anybody that there will be mistrust. This is just in response to very realistic concerns about how does somebody oversee themselves, and everybody at the YPC reports to the city manager, and so I just want to respect that a separate charter office's sunlight on that would be important. But to the other two amendments, I guess I just see them as duplicative to the plan, unless you see deficits that I'm missing.
So what I'm hearing is you are objecting to adding in language that says communities receiving a welfare tax exemption for affordable housing can be considered as part of the other measures.
Let me clarify something from the staff here. Are those communities considered in either of the two tools that are mentioned in the report?
I can't say for sure as I don't have that affordable housing tool pulled up in front of me. But I will say that currently in the SIP, under the following criteria preferred, it says either of the following tools, the C tool and the COI. I cannot say for sure that the other ones are all encompassing.
Is there a way we might get that answer over the next 15 minutes, just because we've got a lot of people up? Maybe we can get that answer.
Or can we broaden it, because it does say either one, which then means you're kind of limited. And so if it is to considered all, then we should broaden the language that's like this or others, which may include communities receiving the welfare tax.
I mean, I think both tools respectfully look at income and look at access to services. And so, I mean, if that's the intention of including that, I mean, that's just why I'm trying to understand what this does beyond what the measure currently does. Because as we mentioned at the last meeting, I mean, the maps are not exclusionary, they're just tools to target. So if I'm targeting a geographic area, I might target that area versus people in an area that I would target because they fit any of the other qualifications, which includes income. So I guess I'm just...
So is it additive or is it interpretive? That's the question.
It's additive because using, I agree with you, Councilmember Valenzuela, access to services is what works. And in some of our areas where our communities are receiving welfare tax exemption for affordable housing, there are not services, as you have talked about, kids, the LGBTQ kids downtown have those services in our downtown. There are some areas outer in the city that do not have CBOs, do not have services, but there is affordable housing. So I'm looking so that it can be included.
Can I weigh in here? I think my recommendation, the maker of the motion will make her decision, is that I think it's okay to accept what the council member is saying, because this is all guidance, right? And it's consistent with the idea, for example, that with GBI, Guaranteed Basic Income, that there are foster youth living in areas of the city that might not be considered low income, and we just want to make sure that nobody's left out. It doesn't mean that the money's going to be prioritized for the people who live in the welfare tax exemption properties. It's just something else that the staff and the ultimate panel can consider. So I don't think there's harm in it. That's my, and it is consistent with that idea that even in communities like Natomas, there are going to be eligible people and or programs that that should at least be considered. They may not win out based on other criteria.
I would love CBOs in my area. We got none.
Okay.
I think it's great, and I think the money you get for your youth programming through parks is more than any of us get in Natomas. And so I guess I'm just trying to be clear about what the problem is we're trying to solve. If this is important, then that's fine. I guess every affordable housing organization has case management and services on site as well. And so, I mean, I guess if the goal is to expand this to North Natomas, I just need to say that that is something that I feel a little pretty strongly against, given there's higher need in other parts of the city. But if having that language in as a consideration will make my colleagues happy, even though I feel it's very redundant of the measure in front of us, then that's fine.
Okay, that's the answer.
And will my seconder agree?
Thank you so much.
Well, I want to answer this is when you look at communities receiving,
let's not
but
argue.
she called me out as this being just for North Natomas. It's not, because there are communities receiving welfare tax exemption and affordable housing throughout the city.
I got
and
it.
that's what I'm advocating
Okay.
for.
Mai, will you accept the?
Yes, I will accept. I think at the end of the day, what really matters is that the equity language has got to be fire. So that's what matters to me most. We'll have these tools at our disposal, but you could use tool to do whatever you want in allocation, right? So the equity language is going to have to be key and that's a priority. I did, Mayor, really quick. Oh, I'm not on the queue, so let me just.
Wait, okay. So the addition has been accepted,
Yes.
and now we're all still together.
I have one clarification. So on the oversight piece, happy to have the city attorney's office involved with this. They are great partners with us. I want to make sure I understand. Do you want the city attorney's office to be on the panel?
No.
Or do you want them to run the procurement?
No, I am not saying either of those things.
Okay.
I want them to have more eyes on the panel process and the rubric process, so that if a question by the community, be able to say for certain they were judged
They would
fairly.
anyways.
Yeah, they would anyway. Yes, absolutely,
Okay.
no problem. It's
Okay,
perfect.
very good. Let's keep going through the queue here. Councilmember Guerra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, one of the key things that I appreciate about where we are here, which is one of the reasons I was a supporter not only for Measure L, but for Measure G and for Measure M, was that this helps with not just year-to-year funding, but looking at long-term. When we make a decision on what programs, longer-term programming, and I think it's appropriate to do reviews, but I think more so, what we know doesn't work is when you're budgeting for 6 months or a year, and then we have a change in the economy, and the next thing you know, it's 4 years later, and that's a big chunk in a youth's life that we've lost if we don't have good, consistent programming. And I think that's a huge win that is being overshadowed about providing a level of consistency and security in whatever this panel decides is the most appropriate piece. And then second, I will say that this is a big step. It is making a commitment of that young people were looking at to say that we want to make sure that we're thinking strategically about how to make the best bang for our buck. It is a very significant step here. I will also echo and support Councilmember Kaplan's request here. Most of you look at that seed tool, a big chunk of that is in District 6, but it's all along the Stockton Boulevard corridor. But there are affordable housing projects that are more on the eastern end of the district that, and those affordable housing projects would not fall into this. And so, yes, it is also a needy community. And I think what she's intending to do is to say, hey, you already qualify for that. I think Councilmember Valenzuela has a point here that more than likely they may fall under the free and reduced lunch already, but there is programming happening, and it's important that the consolidation of folks that are there know that they're eligible for it just because they don't fall within a map, even though that's not what we're trying to do. So I'm supportive of that because it does at least signal to those communities that, okay, you meet the income requirement, income threshold, you should be eligible. So I think it's important that that we do include it as a tool. Thank you, Mayor. I think you are always very eloquent in trying to get us to a decision. So I'm ready, prepared to move forward on this. I do have one question of clarification here for the city staff, and that is, in its 50% allocation, if they felt that what they were trying to accomplish wasn't within their capacity, could the city staff also go out for RFP with a nonprofit?
Well, I'll let the staff answer it, but the broader answer to that and more general answer is that anytime we're asked to provide a service that we don't provide inside within the organization, we always contract out, as evidenced by the list that Jackie and the team put up there. So if we're not able to provide that, we will absolutely go out to bid with that.
So I wanted to make sure that that was clear because, I appreciate my conversation that I had with our YPC staff here. Their point was we're trying to deliver the most and maximum impact. And frankly, I hope folks know that the people who work for our city also live in our city. And I've watched our city employees with their kids, and they're not living in McMansions. They're living in the same communities that our nonprofit partners are in. So I don't like this conflict that we're having here. And so I truly take it at their word where they say, we're going to look at what's the best and maximum way. And it may be partnering. I'm going to bring up the Coloma Center, for example. It's an old building. The school district couldn't manage it anymore. The city took it on, and now they've been able to open up the Spanish immersion program to help bilingual families and families who want to maintain, language, and it's all for 0 to 5. That is a nonprofit and a city partnership in order to provide 0 to 5, which is the purpose of Measure L, provide programming for 0 to 5. But that is a joint project. So I want to make sure that in this motion that's the case. So, and that's what I'm hearing in this scenario. And I'm assuming, Councilmember Valenzuela, that is also the case. So it wouldn't be just 50%. Could be even above 50%, depending on what we were going after. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Good. Thank you. This is more a commentary and a concern that I have. Very supportive of the guaranteed basic income for foster youth. And there's been a lot of advocacy for it. To the point where, great article on Capitol Public Radio about what the county's doing and how much they're doing. And we're being very focused and targeted on how can we maximize our resources. But I'll tell you what hasn't gotten any attention. And with the exception of one of our speakers from Child Action here, is 0 to 5. And so I worry that in a year from now or other years, no one's ever advocating for the little guys. No one's advocating for our little kiddos, And more importantly, because many of the 0 to 5 that we're trying to target and help are working families that are usually working, either long hours or 2 jobs or in those areas, they're not here either advocating either, And so I will say that I'm going to see this process play out, but I worry that that section of 0 to 5, and it was mentioned. By the time, if we don't address those 0 to 5 age, when they're entering first grade and kindergarten, if they haven't had the support, not just babysitting. No, I'm talking about real early childhood education, which is good pedagogy, which is good training those young kids with the social and emotional learning to do well in school. Then we're messing up already if we're not focusing on that aspect. So I'm going to keep an eye on this to make sure that doesn't get overshadowed. I think, to me, that's a major priority, and it's one that they're just not the loudest ones in the room here. So with that, glad to support, and I think those were my 2 points there.
Yeah. So. I was just gonna say that's one of the buckets. So it's guaranteed that money will go to 0 to 5. That's in the measure. It's one of the buckets,
I know it's in the measure. It was one of the reasons I supported it.
Yeah.
But the testimony here is a good example.
Yes, absolutely.
Of who gets
Yeah.
the
Thank you,
loudest
Councilmember
voices.
Guerra.
Good. Okay, let's keep going here. Vice Mayor Maple, thank you.
My mic on. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to all the speakers. Thank you to the District 5 Commissioner on the on the Children's Fund Commission. Davon, I see you. Thanks for showing up both times. I really appreciate you staying through and listening to our comments here tonight and listening to all the speakers, and this has been really helpful for me. I'm not going to go through all my comments again because I spoke at length last meeting, and I really just want to uplift a lot of what my colleagues have already said. To me, it sounds like we're agreeing on the vast majority of things that are presented in this strategic plan, and I think no matter what, this is a really joyous day because what I think is about to come is that this council is about to vote on a historic plan to fund youth programs in the city of Sacramento. And I think that is something that should be uplifted. I know there's a lot of intense conversation throughout this, and I really appreciate it because it's real. But I also want to call that out. This has been a lot of work from all of you in this room, from those on this dais. Many of us supported Measure L, and many of us, and we have some who really pushed for it as well. And I just want to acknowledge the work that went into it, but that we're here in this moment. And it may not be exactly what everybody may want, and that might differ from person to person, but no matter what, that we're here and that this moment is coming now, and that this funding is going to go out to important programs in the city and to the kids that need it most, and I really wanted to call that out. I also wanted to thank those in the room who helped organize a meeting that I attended last night, along with the mayor and Councilmember Vang, related to gun violence, youth gun violence, that happened over the weekend. And it really got me thinking. I heard from many of the speakers. I heard from a lot of our CBOs that are doing work in this space. And so I just, specifically on the question of on youth violence, but really this applies to the entire plan. I've been thinking a lot about how do we maximize what we're doing here? How do we maximize the effects of the dollars that we're putting in? Because as the mayor and others have mentioned, this, while it is a lot of money, it is also going to be a drop in the bucket if we're spreading it among a lot of different organizations and people in the city, and I hear those challenges. And the way that I think about this is there's a lot of agencies and organizations that are doing this work, including CBOs, but also we have the County of Sacramento. We have the city, of course. We have our school districts. We have various agencies like SETA that came in, spoke to our 2 p.m. meeting today that is also doing youth programming and workforce development. And I think what I would like to see moving forward, and this is, future years conversations, not something that I need to be as a part of a motion right now, but I really want us to be thinking strategically with this plan, but also how does this work? How does this money work with all of the other pots of money that are around in this county and this city right now that are doing similar programs? Because there are a lot And I really want to see, a mapping of where are these programs, where are the areas served, what are the populations that are served? Do we have areas of the city that are being served, overserved perhaps, or that are not getting the service? And I heard that there's, some areas of the city that don't have any CBOs operating in them. And making sure that we're bringing these partners together. I'd love to see a more joint effort with us, with the county, with the school districts, to see what we can do to maximize these funds, because that, to me, that's the best way that we're going to get, the most for our money, to make the most impact on youth. And so I want to see this money go out as soon as possible, but in future years, I want to make sure that we're all collaborating with other jurisdictions on a real strategic plan. I'd love to see that happen, especially as it relates to youth violence. And so wanted to call that out, and really appreciate the inclusion of the labor peace agreement language, Councilmember Valenzuela, and looking forward to passing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Tao.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 weeks ago, I was ready to support the proposal as is, and today, I was ready to support the proposal as is as well, because, you realize that many of the disinvestment is in my district. All of the parks improvement is in my district. All of the disinvestments in youth is in my district. This discussion is key. And, I am willing to support the proposal that the mayor put forward today as a, I see it as an assurance of accountability, between CBOs and trusting the city. And I hope that, there will be more private-public partnerships and applying for this grant to activate public spaces, to activate parks, to activate park safety. Our Johnston's Community Center, it would be great to have a public-private partnership and help our YPSI staff activate that center. And, one thing is we should not address funding for youth and youth violence as an aftermath. I saw that when when there was a shooting in North Sacramento and the passing of Michaela Brent at Mama Marks Park. The city allocated $2 million to help improve parks and safety. And, that was just another drop in the bucket, but we didn't see that significant investment. And we should be addressing this issue not as an aftermath to the death of somebody, but as something that is an investment to improve the neighborhoods and improve our community. And, I don't want tonight's vote to be something as an aftermath to what happened this weekend as well, too. And unfortunately, we are here today. And, I think Councilmember Valenzuela said it right. We should work on prevention. We should work on investing in CBOs that can help make these preventions, can reach our most vulnerable youth, can talk to our youth that will be potential kids who have access to guns and might be the bad actors. Trauma, adverse childhood experiences plays a huge part in our communities of color, low-income communities. And this is a step forward that I believe the city is moving to really create this funding to really have us address these issues in our most vulnerable communities, not just our communities that usually come out to programming or be there in the community, but those that are hard to reach, those that we need to go up and talk to, our homeless youth, our youth that don't have a role model, and so definitely I am ready to support the proposal that the mayor put forward and with the 50-50.
Thank you, Councilmember Tao. Mayor Pro Tem Talamantes.
Thank you, Mayor. Sounds like you're going to get a 9-0 vote, Mayor.
Not yet.
Okay, so 2 weeks ago, I was the one that mentioned restroom doors for my park in Northgate, and for lights in our parks so that kids can play late into the night. I use these examples because I had so many community members coming to my office, coming to council, coming to the Children's Commission to advocate for that. So, and it's in both South Natomas and North Natomas and Northgate. I mean, it's a community that definitely meets the SEED index. And I saw it as a violence prevention, and, we all have different ideas, and we bring our ideas to the table, and then people give us feedback on whether they like them or not. So I did ask staff to come up with these ideas on deferred maintenance, and that was at my request. Today, I felt like there was a lot of attacks on our staff for bringing this report up, and I just want to make it very clear that I requested this, and it was an ask from me on this dais as a council member, so I just had to put it on the record because I just didn't appreciate the attacks on our staff. I just didn't see it as an either-or conversation. I thought that both programs and spaces like parks were important places for our youth to go safely and for a place for it to be free. So, we have a limited amount of dollars, limited amount of resources, and a lot of need in our city. And I guess my next question to my council colleagues and to the commission is, if we have $5, how do we want to use those $5? Do we want to spread it out across the city and give $1 to the south side neighborhood, north side? It's $5. It's very limited. So as we move forward in the planning process and even engage our commission, I think it'd be a neat idea to, and I don't need it as part of the motion, but I think it'd be a neat idea to focus on different priority neighborhoods every single year. So maybe one year we invest all the money into Del Paso, the following year all into Meadowview, then maybe South Oak Park or South City Farms. The neighborhoods that have the most need, where if you drive into that neighborhood, you're like, wow, this neighborhood needs a lot of love, needs a lot of resources, needs a lot of attention from the city and from our CBO partners. If we can use that money and kind of create a plan, I know we have a 5-year strategic plan, and we have the pots of where the money's going to be allocated, but how are we going to do this? And if the commission has a meeting, I'd love for them to discuss that and see if they can take me up on my idea, just because it'd be nice to see the full $5 invested into a neighborhood. I think you can see a big difference. So just want to throw out the idea on the table, and that's about it. I'm prepared to support the motion.
Very good. I think it's a really interesting idea about focus and making an impact, and then moving on, making an impact elsewhere. But that'll be for the next debate and discussion. And I will be watching on Channel 14. Okay. Councilmember Jennings.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I too want to kind of start with acknowledging the great job that the commission did in getting us to this point. The work is incredible, and as much as possible, I'm trying to stay with the integrity of the plan that was put out. So a couple of my questions will speak to that. As far as the commission roles moving forward, will they continue to meet and monitor the strategic action plan going forward? Okay. Will they also be looking at the progress that's being made in the 5 target areas?
Yes.
Will they have a report that comes out to the city council so that we can follow that with them as they go through that?
Yes.
And how often will that happen?
Minimally, every year. But they will be meeting, more often, and we'll probably provide updates more often as we see fit and as we have information to provide, and provide robust information to you all.
I definitely believe you start a process like this with more, and then you work your way to minimally a year. But you start it with quarterly, and then you work to the point that you get to 2 times a year, and then you work to the point where it's once a year, and you maintain that. And you have an annual review every time. But I think we need to, with a 5-year plan, we need to look at it more frequently, because we've made some changes to the plan that you guys put out. And I just want to make sure that we maintain the integrity of what you put, the work that you did, because I really appreciate the work that you did. So I'll leave that at that as far as just direction. And I want to make sure that we maximize the dollars that we have. And I'm concerned about that because we're trying to satisfy so many different areas. And I don't think I need to go into all the areas, because we all know the different areas that we now have committed money to. And the proposal that was put on the table that I want to support with parks and also the open process for CBOs now puts less money into the 5 priority areas in some way of looking at it, and in some way it looks at it, it puts more money less money and more money. But when you start looking at supporting mental health and emotional wellness, preventing and reducing homelessness, youth homelessness, preventing and reducing youth substance abuse, preventing and reducing youth violence, supporting healthy development for children 0 through 5, and guaranteeing basic income for foster youth, and then looking at, on top of that, the competitive grant process that you have, and then looking at the parks that you also want to fix, you can already see that the dollars that we have are going to be very small. And that's why I really want to look at the impact, and that's why I want to have more opportunities to see the progress that we have made or have not made, to see if we've made the progress, so that we can then come back and look at potentially redoing the plan that we have just come up with tonight, or at least re-looking at it and considering changes to the plan. Because I don't see how we're going to be able to do it all and be intentional as far as being able to get the kind of results that we want. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to come back on a regular basis, more regular than once a year. And the two more questions. As far as the parks are concerned, now that we've added that, do the parks that have the highest priority, do they maintain that priority over other parks throughout the whole city? I heard District 2 say his parks are the ones that have the most need. Will his parks get priority over every other park that's on the city, if that's the case?
So because it's per open, transparent, and competitive process, it'll be dependent on how those projects align with the different fund areas, with the priority populations, and so on and so forth. For any organization that's putting forth a program, any city project or program that's putting forth an application for funding. So it'll be more dependent on the application itself and what they put forward as to the needs of that park and how it's prioritized per the SIP and per the RFP.
So I think I understand you to say that if that park is going to be used for this program, then it'll become a priority,
Potentially.
potentially. Okay. So where now does the open and competitive process fit in?
So every potential project or program has to go through an open competitive process through a request for proposals. And that's what will be reviewed by a panel, that's objective and aligns with the fund goals in those areas. That's what our open competitive process is. We're going to follow our current procurement and grant distribution policy in that process.
Every program, regardless of whether it's a park program or a CBO program, every last one of them will go through that competitive process?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. I think I've gotten all the points that I wanted to go out. I want to support this. I do. I want us to move forward. I just want us to at least put something in this proposal, in this motion that says we will come back and look at this again in a shorter period of time than a longer period of time. I don't want to wait a year to see that this is working or not working.
It's every quarter. It is every quarter, correct? Isn't that?
I believe there's at least quarterly reports, but the reports that are mandated are only annually. So I guess this would be for additional direction to come back to the council more like quarterly for the first year. Is that what you're asking, Councilmember?
Yeah, can I just, if I may, Councilmember Jennings? I think one of the things that's important to reiterate is that this is not the expenditure plan. Everything that you mentioned, I agree with. The intensity of the resources, for example, to make sure that we're making a big impact. That is yet to be decided when the next council actually votes on the first expenditure plan based upon the competitive process that you described. So two things. Number one, quarterly reports, I think, is embedded in the motion. And secondly, the expenditure plan itself, which gets at the heart of what you've just articulated, is still to be considered.
I want to add on to that, Mayor, if I can.
Yeah.
I think going through the RFP process, the first quarterly report will really just be an update on the procurement process.
On the procurement process,
And then
sure.
simultaneously, we're going to work through, how we put these things out,
Yeah.
how we award the different category areas.
And so you're gonna be here. You're gonna have a half dozen more opportunities, in my view, to be able to weigh in on the refinement of this. Tonight is just a 20,000, I wouldn't say 30,000 feet, 10,000 foot set of decisions about making sure that we balance the resources between guaranteed basic income, the city programs, and the CBOs. That's fundamentally what we're launching tonight, but there's a lot more to do.
No, there is a lot more to do, and what I'm concerned about is our ability to have the impact that I know we all want to have.
Of course.
With the limited resources that we have.
And we can't change the facts that it's $8 million. And so the decisions of of the next council to decide to spend this in the way you just articulated, and I think Councilmember Talamantes, Mayor Pro Tem, said the same thing in a different way, is going to be the true test of the effectiveness of this measure.
So I'm hoping I'm wrong that we're trying to do too much, because we should be trying to do a lot in order to get to those 5 fun areas.
Yep.
But we've added more to that now.
The measure itself describes these categories, but it doesn't mean that the first expenditure plan will include all 5 of those elements. It doesn't mean that. It may be that the council decides to focus on violence prevention. Wouldn't that be something? Because that is really what we're hearing from our community tonight. In fact, I'll make that recommendation to the next mayor and council. Focus on violence prevention. I mean, and take this money and really make the biggest impact with that, along with the guaranteed basic income for the foster kids. That'll be up to you when it comes time to make those decisions.
As to, of the 5, you're saying they will not necessarily all be implemented at the
No.
same time? And who makes that decision?
You.
And what's the role of the commission?
Commission will make a set of recommendations. The staff will make a set of recommendations, and then ultimately it will be the 9 members of this city council that will decide, just as we're doing tonight at the 10,000 foot level.
I see nonverbal language that says one person agrees with you, one person doesn't. So I just want to make sure that that's accurate.
Ms. Gore, oh, please. Okay. Yes, Ms. Gore, hi. What did I say wrong?
Sorry. Good
Sure,
evening,
plenty.
everybody. So I just want to clarify.
Identify yourself,
Oh, I
please.
apologize. I am Jennifer Gore from the City Attorney's Office. So I just want to clarify something. So this is, as the mayor said, this is not an expenditure plan. This is a plan for setting out your goals and things you want to accomplish. This will be followed up by the publication of a request for applications. People will submit their applications. Everyone will be graded on the same criteria to make sure that so it's competitive. And then the panel that will review those, all of the proposals that come in, will score those, will determine who scores the highest, and then we'll determine that those are who should get grant awards. So then, if there's awards that are less than $250,000, those are within the city manager's authority to approve. And then if they're more than $250,000, they would come to the city council for approval. But you won't receive, we can certainly provide a summary of everyone who's going to be awarded based on the scoring, but you won't be receiving a plan for approval of an expenditure plan, because who will be awarded funding will be based on the scoring that's done by that.
Hold on, Ms. Gore. That's true to a point, but let me dig in here a little bit, because first of all, the council can ask for all of the successful proposals to come forward at once. The council can look at those proposals and say, this is great. It really focuses on violence prevention, for example, and therefore we want to approve them. Or it could say, you know, this money it's nice intent, but the money is spread far too wide and thin, and we reject the proposals, and we send it back for further consideration. That's the council's discretion, correct?
That's not our typical grant process. If
I'm
you
not saying
wanted-
it's typical.
Yeah,
Does the
if you
council have the
wanted-
ability to do that?
They do have the ability to do that,
Of
yes.
course.
I just wanted to clarify that that wasn't if that's the direction the council wants to provide, then that we would need.
I think, so I'm going to.
Propose an amendment to my motion.
Yes, exactly. I know where you're going to go, and I think it's good. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I think.
So I hope so. So I think what I'm hearing from Councilmember Jennings and what I'd like to propose as an amendment to my motion is that when this RFP is released and they are scored and people are selected as the top responsive, that comes to the council altogether before it is executed, even if it's under $250,000. Because I think what I'm hearing from you is you want the opportunity
Look at the
at
big
the front
picture.
end to see where the money's going, how it's being distributed, what it's going to be able to weigh in, and also the opportunity on the back end to see how it's performing and to understand if pivots are made. Is that responsive to your request, Councilmember Jennings?
It is, very much so.
Okay.
I think we need to make clear on the procurement process because, we follow pretty, it was laid out in the staff report that we make it clear to the people applying for the funds that the council will have the ultimate say.
Yes.
Not the panel.
Yes.
I guess I just want to make sure, because what I just heard from the city attorney's office is like, not necessarily that it might come to the council as proposals traditionally do, proposal by proposal, item by item, and that if it's under $250,000, it might not. And so what I'm amending my motion to say is that this council would get the full list of, applicants from the RFP that are being recommended for approval before funds are executed as one item so that they can look at it in totality, make any recommendations or changes or suggestions before those funds are distributed.
I think that is totally appropriate and actually consistent with everybody's comments about making sure we're making a big picture impact. And it requires all of us to work closely together, the panel, the city staff. Everybody's going to have to consider the big picture here and making sure that we are spending the money in focused ways that maximize the opportunity for the biggest impact.
And it helps with transparency.
And it's also transparent.
And then just quickly to answer Councilmember Jennings' question on do we fund all 5, I just want to pull in the language that it says from Measure L. It says that youth services may include but are not limited to.
Are not limited
so it
to.
gives us the discretion that if we want to focus in one area or two, we can, and that's specifically language from Measure L.
Councilmember Frank, will you accept the addition by Councilmember Valenzuela? One second.
Just saw staff raising their hands. So
Okay, go ahead first. Go ahead.
Yes, just want to say if this is the direction of council, it will impact the overall timeline. So that's just a.
We understand that, but better to get it right.
Can I ask what the timeline is?
Currently, it's to have contracts negotiated by January and have funds then dispersed between January and February. So I can't give an exact timeline of how much that would push it out, but given our 10-day period, it could push it out about a month or so.
So it could push, okay.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really necessary because the plan needs to hold together as a plan, not as just individual allocations. And again, the message to the panel, to the staff, and to the council is that everybody needs to focus on one or two things as opposed to trying to do all of it in order to make an impact. I think that's a clear message here. We do not want this money spread too wide and too thin because it won't make an impact. That's okay. So Maya, you accept that second?
Yeah, I'll accept that, but I just also want to put something on record. What I don't want happening is that we push this to mid-year budget conversation, and then this becomes a filler to address our budget deficit. I just want to put that out right now because I think it's a priority that we make sure that these dollars goes to our most vulnerable youth. I'm going to support the vote tonight, but any more further delay for me is a delay tactic for our young people, and so I just want to put that on record.
Councilmember Vang, I will say that the only way it gets extended is if this council extends it.
Absolutely, but that's the politics of this, right? Like, we're going to be in a different situation in March or in February, and then attitudes and positions are going to change, which I get it, it's politics. But what I don't want happening is that we're balancing the budget on the backs of young people. And I don't want to be in that conversation when it is February. So I'm okay with delaying it because that's what we're doing, because this council wants to get into the details of the 50,000, the 100,000 that the panel is going to decide. That's fine. That's on the council. But what I just want to say is that I don't want this process to delay when it is mid-year budget conversation, and then council members are like, hey, we got a budget deficit. Let's balance this budget on the back of young people, and I will not allow that to happen,
Okay.
and I just want to put that on
It's
record.
a fair, everybody, and I think everybody, it's in the council's hands here, okay? it is in the council's hands. But I think, just to take it down for a moment, what Councilmember Jennings, what you suggested, I think was a really important part of this discussion, because we do want to not take too much time, but take the time to make sure that that it is a citywide plan that has the biggest impact, that maybe doesn't touch every one of the 5 categories, but actually does something. And I recommend we start with violence prevention, but that's up to the next council. I'm going to give my Vang the last comment, but I just want to say 1 or 2 things here. One, I know I called up Monica, the chair, earlier and kind of put her on the spot, and I just want to say for the record that I think you are right to defend the commission's work and to say that you support the commission. I just think you stood by your commissioners and did a good job. So thank you. Okay. The lesson of this, so many lessons, but we are better together. And if we get a unanimous vote tonight, we will be going forward together on building something that over time will be tens of millions of dollars for young people. And by working together and being together, we'll have a much greater impact. So thank you to everybody, the staff, the community, the commission, the members. None of this is easy, but let's take the vote here. Mai, you want to have the last word?
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to take this moment to say thank you to all of the young people who worked every weekend, day and night, knocking on doors, working really hard to get this measure passed, right? And I know that this isn't the commission's recommendation, but this is a huge win. And you should, if you're watching tonight, all the young people, and if you attended tonight, just know that this happened because of you, that you're doing that job in terms of holding government accountable to young people. And so tonight is a win, and you should celebrate this huge win. And the fight still continues because we got to make sure those dollars reach our most vulnerable youth, but we should be celebrating all of you tonight. And I just want to say congratulations to the commission, because one thing is, usually when recommendations from commission comes to council, I can only speak on behalf of myself, but most of those commission's recommendations don't get adopted. But the fact that this commission, the majority of your recommendations got adopted, except for the percentage, right? That's a huge win, and you should be proud of yourself, and that's because of your advocacy, so congratulations.
By one. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Kaplan. Councilmember Tao. Mayor Pro Tem Talamontes. Councilmember Valenzuela.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Maple.
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Jennings.
Yes.
Councilmember Vang. Yes. And Mayor Steinberg.
Yes, 9-0. That's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Very good. I know we have 7 people to testify on items not on the agenda. Then we have very important adjourn in memory tonight. I will lead that off when it's time. But why don't we take the public testimony on items not on the agenda? We have seven people.
Thank you. The first one is Allison Nealon. And I will call a few names. Allison Nealon, Danny Williams, Draymore Edwards, Jaleel Baker, Tanya Miranda, Richard Milla, and then Monica Rule as mayors. And if you want to wait a moment so we can quiet the audience for you. Please proceed when you're ready.
Do I have 2 minutes?
You do.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you all for being here so late. I don't know how you do it. I couldn't do what you do. I'm here tonight to talk about speed bumps. I know this isn't the process for how we do speed bumps. I've already tried the petition thing. I've tried a bunch of things. So this is the next thing I'm going to try. The reason that I'm here tonight, didn't pick the best night to come. Probably should have picked one with a less contentious item on the agenda. On Saturday, I saw a dog get run over right in front of these 2 little kids, and it was horrendous. I've been trying to get speed bumps on 21st Avenue for a couple years now. For those of you who aren't familiar with 21st Avenue, it's a park that's not a park. There's a big greenway in the middle that people use as a park, but it doesn't have an official park designation. In short, what I'm here to say is that whether or not it's an official park, people are going to continue to use it as a park. There are 200 new affordable housing units that were built right next to the area, and I love that. It's so wonderful. And I can bet you that the new residents are going to come and use the space the same way that we who already live around it use it, as a park. So we need the traffic calming measures to match the way that people are utilizing the space. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Our next speaker is Danny Williams, then Draymore Edwards.
Hello again and good evening. I'm so proud of tonight's vote. Real quick, the CEO, for those that grant that's now the RFA coming our way, you know, as a small CBO in South Sacramento, please consider also for CEOs, when you do the grant RFAs, if you're a CEO and you're making over $200,000, maybe you should be exempt from applying for the grant. If your budget is over $1 million to $3 million, maybe you should be exempt from applying for the grant. Because what happens is now you make it an industry for serving young people instead of a ministry. So I got to put it out there. A lot of CBOs like myself are doing the work, but we're competing with people who are just so big they gobble the money up. You got to really think about that, making it to where that caveat, you know, and then if you get that, you're a big CBO, then you have to partner with one to three partners, right? Instead of just getting all the money for yourself, maybe think about getting 5 new CBOs. So please think about that, my Vang. You know, I've known you, Councilman Vang, since 2019. You've been there before they built Villa Hardin. You've seen us do the work, and we're doing it on as Mayor Steinberg said, on a shoestring budget. So it can happen, but hold people accountable. Council member Kaplan, my team met with you a couple of years ago. I'd love to be that first CBO working with you with food justice, with workforce development. I want to talk to you about that fire station in Natomas. I used to be a teacher at Natomas High School. Would love to talk to you about that. Councilman Guerra, he's not here, but you were there when you came to Coral Gables, you know, during that National Night Out. Just met Vice Mayor Maple last night, you know, at the community meeting. So much. Also, we were trying to do a daycare center in Meadow Glen as well, and that's when the pandemic hit. So I'm there with you. I'm gonna leave my business cards with a couple of y'all. Love to talk with y'all because we do care. We do care. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Draymore Edwards, then Jaleel Baker.
Good afternoon. I just have a quick request before the time starts. Draymond is the speaker that's on queue right now, but he asked if you all would be okay with me going first and him following me.
Please proceed.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon. Good evening. My name is Jaleel Baker. I work with Improve Your Tomorrow as a civic engagement coordinator. I have one of our youth members here, and we intended to have our public comment slips on, you know, the strategic investment plan, but it may be a blessing in disguise to be able to address you all after the vote. As you all know, IYT was here last week or 2 weeks ago, and our position hasn't changed. We supported the plan as presented by the commissioners, and although, you know, it could be a celebratory moment and occasion tonight to have the mayor's compromise and the council supporting it unanimously to have that in place. I think there's still some reservations that a lot of our community members may have, and I'll just speak on myself and IYT's position that we have as nonprofit organizations. As you heard tonight from several community members, there are several different strategies that could have been employed by this council to backfill deferred maintenance projects and parks improvement projects, and it's quite disappointing to see that money coming from a community-approved voted measure that was intended to support, you know, our target demographics and that were called out. Lacks a little, in my opinion, you know, lacks a little creativity and is a slap in the face of the community members who work so hard to get a specific portion of funding for these target areas. So a little disappointed tonight. I do have to be honest with you all on that, but you know, thank you for some of the funding.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Draymore and then Tanya Miranda.
Hello. My name is Dre. I'm here representing IYT. I'm also kind of disappointed with the vote.
just because I supported it as is. And we support the work of nonprofits as they are already, and serving our most vulnerable communities. Nonprofits should be viewed as partners with the city and not competitors for funding. And honestly, like, I understand investing in parks is cool and all, but I feel like which parks are mainly for kids, and considering we aren't getting the resources we need for them, and the way everything happens, like recently we just lost youth. We just lost like a youth, and more recently, there will be no youth for, you feel me, parks, for them to go to parks, you know, because, you know, I hope you understand what I'm saying, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Tanya Miranda, then Richard Milla.
Hi, Council, Mayor. My name's Donna Miranda. I'm born and raised in North Sacramento, District 2, Del Paso Heights, but my family's been in the North area for over 6 generations. I come here as a community member from the North area to highlight the different violence situations that we've had this past weekend. I know it's gotten a lot of coverage throughout the news, and it's very sad, but I also want to just state that this isn't the first time, right? Since I was a kid, it's been happening in the North area. You know, when I think of the violence, I think of Chito, he was from Gardenland. I think of Fabian, who was from Del Paso Heights. I think of Jaime, who was from Gardenland. I think of all these different people, and then also the ones that went through the school to prison pipeline that are not here with us, and they're still incarcerated since we were 16. And so when we're thinking of a solution, I'd love to be a part of that, not just a part of Youth Forward, but a part of real community members there in the North area that have not been a part of city programs. And the only city program that I was a part of was from our own mayor, Joe Cerna, who literally took a program there, the first one that we ever had at Hagenwood Park for all the North area. And so to help be part of the solutions that we can with, you know, our wonderful district members, you know, I know Lisa Kaplan's office and our District 2, you guys have been very responsive on different things, and I'm excited to continue to connect. But for the overall, how can we help and how can we be a part of the solution? You know, I've been a part of this in the community my whole life, and I plan on staying here. And so we're here, there's real community here, there's real Native community in the North area, and we are the most impacted there. So I look forward to working with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Richard Milla, and then Monica Ruelas-Mayers.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Richard Miller, and I'm here to address an issue, while seemingly small, has significant implications to our community: the non-functional tower clock at City Hall. The City Hall clock tower has long stood as a symbol of our city, its hands marking the passage of time and serving as a reliable fixture in our daily lives. However, for some time now, the clock has been out of order. This is not merely an inconvenience. It sends a message about the state of our local government and our commitment to upkeep the city. The clock's inoperability affects the surrounding areas, particularly Cesar Chavez Plaza, the plaza's central gathering place for residents and visitors alike. It is closely tied to the visual and cultural identity of the City Hall. The clock presents a functional and contributes to the atmosphere and aesthetics of the plaza. When the clock is not working, it detracts from the charm and the historical significance of the area, potentially diminishing the experience for those who spend time during concerts in the park where the clock tower is center stage. Moreover, a non-functional clock can be seen as a metaphor for neglect or inefficiency. It reflects poorly on our local government, suggesting that even basic maintenance issues are not being addressed. This can erode public confidence in our ability to manage longer or more complex issues facing our city. It is vital that we maintain our public spaces and landmarks, not only for practical reasons, but also for demonstration of our pride and dedication to our community. By ensuring the clock is repaired and maintained, we signal that we care about the details and contribute to our city's character and functionality. It shows that we are attentive to the needs of the public spaces and that we value the symbol and represent shared history and identity.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Our final speaker is Monica Ruelas-Mayers.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hey, am I the last one? So I didn't really prepare anything, so I'm going to be completely off script. But Mayor, I just want to thank you for appointing me to the commission. You know, when we had that conversation, I told you that I was always going to be an advocate for the young people of this community, the person that I was growing up, and the young people today that are growing up in the community still experiencing disparities. And, you know, I just want to acknowledge that something that you said in your State of the City that I heard pretty loud and clearly is that we don't have to like each other, right? To be able to work together and to improve the lives of children and youth in the city. And I'm not going to assume that all of you, you know, like me for any, you know, reason or not. But I do think that I would like to work with you all so that we can really make a great impact for our most vulnerable youth. And thankfully we were able, or myself, I was able to meet with a couple of you ahead of this meeting, as well as a couple of you ahead of the last meeting that we had. But I wasn't able to meet with Councilmember Kaplan. I wasn't able to meet with Councilmember Talamantes. You know, I had some conversations with your Chief of Staff, Vice Mayor. Oh, sorry, Mayor Pro Tem. And so I just want to make that call out because as we're continuing this effort, I really do feel that in the spirit of collaboration and for our young people that we should work together. And so I don't want to take all the time, and I know you guys want to go home. I do too. But yeah, let's work together. I think you know, we have representation from all of the districts and all of the communities as a part of our coalition and the youth leaders that have been working with us for the past 10 years. And so I'm ready to work together if you guys are. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mayor, I have no more speakers.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, I want to begin tonight, and I know other members are going to want to weigh in, but I want to adjourn this meeting tonight in memory of a great Sacramentan and a great statewide leader, Bill Camp. Bill died much too soon on Monday, I believe, yesterday. And many of us saw him at the Labor Day picnic just less than a month ago, and we knew that he was not well. Bill Camp was a giant in this community, and he was a warrior for social justice, not just organized labor, although that was his main passion. But Bill stood with and for anybody who was not getting treated fairly by a government, by a business, by a community. And I'm struck by how, in his, quote, spare time, he started this whole movement about trying to help the Cuban people. And the what? And the Honduran people, and traveled to Cuba and to Central America so many occasions. And he has a beautiful family. I know his wife, Catherine, who's a mental health champion, actually, for her whole life, and his son, and so many people who he loved and who loved him. And I know the labor community specifically feels this in very profound ways, but we all feel this because Bill, he led from the heart, and he combined the heart and the head and helped so many people and so many movements and so many issues and so many ordinances and so many bills and so many campaigns. He was a truly impactful leader and person. And I know that there are going to be some really important memorials for him in the month of October. And I know some of you, I had my great journey with Bill through many, many years and a real friendship. And I know for so many of you that this hits really close to home. And I'm sorry, and we're all sorry. And our heart goes out to his family and everybody who loved him. And this is one Sacramentan who will never be forgotten, will never be forgotten. Bill Camp, life well lived, friend. Thank you. Okay. If there's nothing else to come before the City Council, we're adjourned.